I, 32 male, proposed to Jessica, 29, 8 months ago with what I thought was a meaningful ring. Not massive, but a quality 1.2 carat solitaire that cost me about $7,800. Saved for it for over a year, researched cuts and clarity, the whole 9 yards. She said yes, cried happy tears, posted it everywhere. For about 3 months, everything was perfect. Then her college friend Meredith got engaged. Her ring was ostentatious, like 3 carats, halo setting, probably north of $25,000. Jessica came home from that engagement party acting weird, kept twisting her ring, barely looking at it. Finally, last Tuesday over dinner, she drops this. Tom, we need to talk about the ring. What about it? It's embarrassing. Meredith's ring is gorgeous, and when people see mine next to hers, it looks like you didn't even try. I literally put my fork down. Embarrassing? Don't get defensive. I'm just being honest. Maybe we could upgrade it? Add a halo or side stones. The ring I saved for a year is embarrassing? She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. I'm just saying it could be better. Meredith's fiancé works in tech too, and he managed to get her something spectacular. If you hate it that much, return it then. She laughed. Actually laughed. Let's stop being so sensitive. I'm not returning it. I just think we should enhance it. No, seriously. If it embarrasses you, give it back. Tom, come on. I stood up. I'm dead serious. Jessica, if the ring I chose with love embarrasses you, then you shouldn't wear it. She thought I was bluffing. Even patted my hand like I was throwing a tantrum. We'll talk when you're less emotional. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about how she said, embarrassing so easily. Like the ring, and by extension, my effort, was something shameful. The woman I was planning to marry thought my expression of love wasn't good enough for her image. Thursday morning, she left for work wearing the ring, as usual, kissing me goodbye like nothing happened. But something had shifted in me. That word kept echoing. Embarrassing. I made a decision. Update 1, 3 days later. So Thursday evening, Jessica comes home chattering about wedding venues, acting like Tuesday never happened. I let her talk, nodded along. When she went to shower, I noticed she'd left the ring on the bathroom counter. She always does when she showers. I took it, put it in the original box, placed the box in my sock drawer. When she came out, she didn't even notice it was gone. Went to bed, watched Netflix, totally oblivious. Friday morning, she's getting dressed, goes to put on the ring, and the panic starts. Tom, have you seen my ring? Which ring? My engagement ring. It was right here. I'm drinking coffee, totally calm. The embarrassing one. She freezes. It's not. Tom, where is it? Safe. What do you mean safe? You said it embarrasses you, so I'm helping you not be embarrassed anymore. Her face went from confused to angry. This isn't funny. Give me my ring. It's not your ring anymore. You made that clear when you called it embarrassing. I didn't mean, I was just, give me the ring. No. She actually stomped her foot. Like a toddler. You can't just take it back. I didn't take it back. You rejected it when you said it embarrasses you. I'm just following through. She left for work in a rage, slamming doors. 20 minutes later, the text started. This is insane. You're being a child. I need that ring, Tom. People will ask questions. Give it back. I replied once. You want a better ring. Now you're free to get one. Then I muted her texts. Saturday was her monthly brunch with her friend group. The one where they all compare their lives and humble brag about everything. She couldn't skip it without raising questions. She tried one more time that morning. Tom, please. I need the ring for brunch. Why? It embarrasses you. People will notice. Then tell them the truth. That you didn't like it. She left without another word. But oh, the text I got afterward. Not from her, from her sister Denise. WEF did you do? Jessica showed up to brunch without her ring, and Meredith asked if you two broke up. I didn't respond. Then her mom called. Patricia. This woman. Let me tell you about Patricia. Thomas, what is this nonsense about taking back Jessica's ring? She said it embarrasses her. Patricia. She was just expressing herself. You men are so sensitive. She called a ring I saved for a year embarrassing. That's not expressing herself. That's insulting me. She deserves a ring that makes her happy. Then she can buy one. You're being ridiculous. Return that ring immediately. No. I'll call your mother. Go ahead. She did call my mom. Mom called me an hour later, laughing. Patricia says you stole Jessica's ring. Jessica said it embarrasses her. The ring you saved all that time for. Yep. Good for you, honey. Don't let anyone make you feel like your love isn't enough. Thanks, Mom. Jessica came home from brunch looking defeated. Do you know how humiliating that was? Everyone asking where my ring was. Now you know how I felt when you called it embarrassing. That's different. Ow. She couldn't answer. Update 2, 1 week later. The escalation has been something. First, Jessica tried the silent treatment. 3 whole days of her dramatically ignoring me while living in the same apartment. Making elaborate meals for one. Watching TV with headphones, the works. I just carried on normally. Made my own dinners, went to the gym, caught up with friends. That didn't work, so she switched tactics. Wednesday night, I wake up to her crying in bed. Loud, dramatic sobs. What's wrong? I just wanted to sob feels special. You didn't feel special with a $7,800 ring. Meredith said sob. It looked like a promise ring. And there it was. This wasn't even Jessica's opinion originally. Meredith had made some snide comment, and Jessica internalized it. So Meredith's opinion matters more than our relationship? You don't understand. They all have these beautiful rings, and mine is just basic. Then buy yourself a beautiful ring. She stopped crying instantly. I can't afford that. Neither could I. That's why I saved for a year. She huffed and turned away. Thursday, things got interesting. I came home to find her best friend Arya and Meredith herself in our living room. An intervention. Meredith spoke first in this condescending tone. Tom, we need to talk about this ring situation. We don't need to talk about anything. You're being emotionally abusive, withholding her ring like this. I actually laughed. Emotionally abusive? She called my ring embarrassing, and I'm the abusive one. Arya jumped in. Jessica deserves to have standards, and I deserve a fiancé who doesn't call my expressions of love embarrassing. Meredith stood up, trying to be intimidating. Look, I know your male pride is hurt, but get out of my apartment. Excuse me. You're the one who made her feel bad about her ring in the first place. You don't get to come into MY home and lecture me. Get out. They looked at Jessica, who was suddenly very interested in her phone. They left, but not without Meredith saying, Jessica, you deserve better. She absolutely does, I agreed. She deserves someone whose efforts don't embarrass her. Friday, Jessica tried a new approach. She came home with printouts of rings. Look, these aren't even that expensive. We could trade in the original ring and just pay the difference. I looked at the papers. All rings in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. Well, yes, it would be for us. Jessica, I'm not spending another dime on a ring for you. But if we trade in, there's no we trading in anything. I bought that ring. It's mine. You rejected it. I didn't reject it. I just want an upgrade. You called it embarrassing. Stop saying that word. She grabbed the papers and stormed off. Saturday morning, she made her biggest play yet. Came out dressed up, makeup perfect. I'm going to look at rings today. Okay. By myself. Okay. To buy with my own money. Good for you. She looked frustrated. You're really going to let me buy my own engagement ring? You're an adult with a job. Buy whatever doesn't embarrass you. Other men would. Other men aren't engaged to someone who called their ring embarrassing. She left and came back 3 hours later, empty-handed and furious. Do you know how much nice rings cost? Yes. That's why I saved for a year. The one I liked was $22,000. Better start saving. That night, she called her dad. On speaker, thinking I couldn't hear from the bedroom. Dad, Tom is being completely unreasonable. He took back my engagement ring. Well, I said it was a little small. No, not exactly. I said embarrassing. Dad, are you there? Jessica, did you really call his ring embarrassing? Everyone else has bigger ones. The man saved for a year to buy you a ring, and you called it embarrassing? But I'm not getting involved in this. You made your bed. Even her dad wasn't taking her side. You could hear the shock in her voice. Update 3, 2 weeks later. The texts from Patricia, her mom, haven't stopped. You're ruining my daughter's life. She cries every day. Man up and buy her a proper ring. This is financial abuse. That last one made me laugh so hard I screenshot it and sent it to my brother. He responded, "Financial abuse is demanding someone spend $20,000 they don't have, LMAO." Jessica started telling people we were taking a break to explain the missing ring. Found that out when my coworker asked if I was okay. Why wouldn't I be? Heard you and Jessica are on a break. News to me. We live together. I saw her this morning. The confusion on his face was priceless. But the real drama came Tuesday. Jessica brought home a ring, a massive, gaudy thing with a huge center stone, wearing it on her right hand. What's that? My new ring. Isn't it beautiful? Engagement rings go on the left hand. It's not an engagement ring. It's a self-love ring. Okay, 3.5 carats. Moissanite, but nobody can tell the difference. Cool. She was waiting for a reaction. Didn't get one. Wednesday, she wore it on her left hand. People at work loved my new ring. Good for them. Everyone said it's so much better than the old one. I'm sure they did. Aren't you jealous? Of what? You buying yourself jewelry. Thursday, she cracked. Full meltdown in the kitchen. Why don't you care? About what? I'm wearing another ring. I bought myself a ring because you won't give mine back. It wasn't yours. You rejected it. And that's fine. You bought yourself one you're not embarrassed by. Problem solved. We're engaged. You're supposed to provide the ring. I did. You called it embarrassing. Stop saying that. It's what you said. I take it back. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. You meant it when Meredith made you feel small. You meant it when you thought I just upgraded. You only didn't mean it when there were consequences. She threw the moissanite ring across the room. It hit the wall, and the stone popped out of the setting. Great. There goes $500. I hate you. Then we shouldn't get married. Dead silence. You want to break up? I want to be with someone who doesn't think my best effort is embarrassing. She started ugly crying. Not the manipulation tears from before. Actual, ugly crying. Please, Tom. Please. I'm sorry. I want my ring back. Why? Because I love you. You love me, but my ring embarrasses you? I was stupid. Meredith got in my head. And what happens next time she gets in your head? About our wedding? Our house? Our life? It won't happen again. It already happened once. That's enough. She slept on the couch that night. Friday morning, I woke up to her packing. I'm going to stay with my parents for a while. Okay. Is that all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Jessica? Fight for me. Tell me to stay. You think my ring is embarrassing. Why would I fight to keep someone who's embarrassed by me? She broke down again. It's just a ring. Exactly. It's just a ring. And if you can't appreciate it, how can I trust you to appreciate anything else I do for you? She left with 3 suitcases and her moissanite ring in pieces in a Ziploc bag. Final update, 1 month later. So, it's been a month since Jessica moved back with her parents. The entitlement escalated to absolutely insane levels before finally crashing down. Week 1 at her parents' house, she started a full social media campaign. Posted old photos of us with captions like, "Remember when love was enough?" And "Some people give up too easily." Her friends ate it up. Comments like, "He doesn't deserve you, queen," and "His lost babe." Then she posted a photo of her hand with the broken moissanite ring, captioned, "When you have to buy your own ring because he's too prideful to admit his mistake." My phone blew up. I posted one thing in response. A simple screenshot of her text saying, "The ring is embarrassing. Meredith's is so much better." Comments went quiet real fast. Patricia called me screaming, "How dare you humiliate my daughter?" I posted her exact words. "Take it down immediately. No, I'll sue you for defamation." It's her literal text message. Good luck with that. She hung up. Week 2, Jessica showed up at my apartment with her dad, Dennis. Good guy. Usually stays out of drama. "Tom, can we talk man to man?" "Sure, Dennis. This has gone far enough. Just give her the ring back." "Why?" He sighed. "Because she's my daughter, and she's miserable. She's miserable because she's entitled, not because I won't give her a ring she called embarrassing." Jessica piped up, "Dad, tell him he's being..." Jessica quiet. "Tom, what would it take? An actual apology and genuine appreciation. Not this manipulation." Jessica rolled her eyes. "I've apologized 1,000,000 times." "No, you said you're sorry I got upset." You said you didn't mean it. You've cried and demanded. You haven't once acknowledged that what you said was horrible and shallow. Dennis turned to his daughter. Is that true? Dad, Jessica Marie, is that true? She huffed. Fine. Tom, I'm sorry I called your ring embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. I was being shallow and materialistic. Happy. Do you mean it? Yes. God. I went to my room, got the box, and handed it to Dennis. Not to her. To Dennis. Your daughter doesn't want this ring. She wants a status symbol. Give it to her or don't, but I'm done with it. Jessica grabbed it from her dad, put on immediately. There. See, we're good now. No, we're not. But I apologized. I'm wearing the ring. Jessica, we're done. The engagement is off. The explosion was nuclear. Dennis had to physically drag her out while she screamed about suing me, ruining my life, how I'd never find anyone else. Week 3, the real entitlement came out. Got a call from my apartment complex. Jessica had tried to convince them she was locked out and needed a key. When they called me to confirm, I told them she didn't live here anymore. Then my bank called. She tried to access our wedding savings account. Not a joint account. My account that I'd nicknamed Wedding Fund in the app. She'd somehow figured out my password, probably watched me type it, and it tried to transfer money. Bank flagged it as suspicious. Changed every password I had. Enabled two-factor on everything. But the peak insanity? She started telling people I was abusive and controlling. That I'd isolated her from friends, controlled her finances, and emotionally manipulated her. Except, she forgot that her friends had been eyeing our apartment. That she'd posted constantly about our dates, trips, gifts. That there was a massive digital trail of her very public, very happy life. Her friend Aria actually reached out to me. Hey Tom, I'm sorry. I believed her at first, but then I remembered all the times you supported her. Like when you paid for her certification course, or surprised her with that spa weekend. This isn't adding up. One by one, her friends started seeing through it. Meredith was the last holdout, until Jessica made a fatal mistake. She hit on Meredith's fiancé. Yep, Jessica, in her desperation, tried to slide into Derek's, Meredith's tech bro fiancé, Dems, sent him messages about how a real man would appreciate her, and how maybe they chose the wrong partners. Derek immediately showed Meredith. Meredith lost her mind and put Jessica on blast in their group chat. Screenshots and everything. The group imploded. Everyone turned on Jessica. Even her sister Denise texted me. I'm sorry, Tom. She's lost it. Mom's enabling her, but Dad and I see the truth. Last week, got a message from Jessica. One final attempt. Tom, I know I messed up. I know I was awful. I'm in therapy now, working on myself. I still have the ring. I wear it every day. I know you'll never take me back, but I need you to know that I finally understand. The ring was never embarrassing. I was embarrassing. I was so caught up in comparing myself to others that I forgot what really mattered. You loved me enough to save for a year to buy that ring. And I threw in your face for what? To impress people who don't even talk to me anymore? I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. I read it, deleted it, blocked the number. Found out from Dennis last week that she's selling the ring to pay for therapy. Poetic justice? Maybe. I don't really care anymore. As for me, I'm good. Turned the wedding fund into a vacation fund. Took a solo trip to Iceland last week. Amazing country. Met some cool people. One woman from Germany laughed when I told her the story and said, Americans worry too much about ring size. In Germany, we sometimes just use simple bands. Maybe my next proposal will be to someone who understands that. The apartment's quiet now. Peaceful. No more drama about whose friend has what, or who's achieving which milestone faster. Just me, my work, my hobbies, my life. To anyone reading this, if someone tells you your best isn't good enough, believe them. Then walk away. Don't let anyone make you feel like your love needs a price tag to be valid. Oh, and Jessica, if you're reading this, your ring wasn't embarrassing, but your behavior sure was.
My girlfriend said, "You're too nice. Nice guys always lose." I smiled and said nothing. The way she lost me made her rethink everything about kindness. I, 28, was making breakfast when Maya, 26, dropped her philosophy on relationships. We'd been together for 3 years, living in my apartment for the last 18 months. Maya, you know what your problem is, Marcus? You're too nice. Me, flipping pancakes. How's that a problem? Nice guys always lose. You let people walk all over you. Like with your boss, he dumps extra work on you and you just smile and do it. Me, I get overtime pay and good performance reviews. Rolling her eyes. See, that's what I mean. You rationalize being a doormat. In the real world, you need to be ruthless. Take what you want. I prefer earning what I get. God, you're hopeless. This is why guys like Dominic get ahead while you're still in the same position after 5 years. Dominic. Her coworker who she mentioned a lot lately. The alpha who supposedly had it all figured out. Me. I got promoted twice, Maya. Small promotions. Dominic just leveraged a job offer into a 40% raise because he's not afraid to play hardball. Good for him. Frustrated. You don't get it. Nice guys finish last, Marcus. Always have, always will. Sometimes I wonder. Wonder what? Nothing. Just, maybe you need to toughen up. For us. For our future. Served her breakfast. She picked at it while scrolling through Instagram. Noticed she'd liked several of Dominic's posts. Gym selfies, mostly. That conversation stuck with me. Not because she was right, but because of what she was really saying. She didn't respect kindness. Saw it as weakness. After 3 years, she still didn't know me at all. 2 weeks later, things escalated. Came home to find her on FaceTime with her sister, Layla. Maya, not noticing me. I'm telling you, it's exhausting. Marcus won't stand up for anything. His neighbor parks in his spot, he just finds another one. Barista gets his order wrong, he drinks it anyway. Layla. Sounds frustrating. It is. Yesterday his ex did asking to grab the jacket she left here ages ago. He actually mailed it to her, with tracking. Who does that? Wow. I need a man who takes charge, who doesn't let people use him. Like Dominic, he told his ex to get lost when she tried that. Meant that's strength. Stood there listening. She finally noticed me. Oh, you're home. We were just talking. I heard. Zero shame. Good. Maybe you'll finally get it. Your niceness is pathetic, Marcus. Noted. See, even now, a real man would be angry, would demand respect. I don't demand respect. I earn it, or I don't. Either way, I know my worth. Your worth? You're a pushover who'll never get anywhere because you're too soft. Okay. God, okay? That's it? This is exactly what I mean. Smiled. Said nothing. Made dinner. The next Monday, Maya's mask fully slipped. Got a text while at work. Maya, working late tonight? Team dinner with the marketing dept. Me have fun. Except I'd just gotten lunch delivered to the office and saw something interesting. The delivery driver was confused, said traffic was backed up near Rosewood Hotel because of some tech conference. Rosewood Hotel, where Maya's company hosted events. Except their marketing team dinner was supposedly happening. Didn't confront, didn't check up, just made a note. Tuesday, similar text. Wednesday too. By Thursday her team dinners had become a running joke only I was in on. Friday afternoon, she came home glowing. Maya, guess what? Dominic might have a position opening in his department. Better pay, better hours. He's been mentoring me all week. That's nice. Nice? It's amazing. See, this is what I mean about being strategic. Dominic says I need to be more assertive to get ahead. What kind of mentoring? Professional development, networking strategies. You wouldn't understand. It requires a certain edge. That weekend, she went shopping. Came back with bags from expensive stores. Big shopping trip? I need to look the part for this new position. Dominic says image is everything. How much? $1,800. You spent $1,800 on clothes? It's an investment. Besides, I'll pay you back when I get the promotion. You used your credit card? It's maxed. I used yours, the one you gave me for emergencies. This was an emergency? My career is important. God, stop being so cheap. A real man would support his girlfriend's ambitions. I see. You're not even mad? Pathetic. Dominic bought his ex a car to support her career. How'd that work out? She left him, but that's not the point. Smiled. Said nothing. Update 1. 2 weeks later. The universe has a sense of humor. Maya was right about one thing. Nice guys don't always win. But she misunderstood what nice meant. Her late nights continued. The credit card charges painted an interesting picture. Restaurants, hotels, Uber rides to addresses that weren't her office. All on my emergency card. Didn't say anything, just documented. Screenshots, statements, receipts, built a file, then came the big ask. Saturday morning she sat me down. Maya, Marcus, we need to talk about our living situation. Oh? I've been thinking, you're too comfortable, too settled. It's holding us both back. How so? This apartment. It's nice, but it's safe, boring, like you. It's rent-controlled and in a great location. Exactly. You won't take risks. Dominic just moved to a luxury high-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop pool, that's ambition. Good for him. I think we should move, somewhere that matches where I'm going in life. We? Yes, we. Unless you're too nice to fight for this relationship. What did you have in mind? Pulling up listings on her phone. This building, 2-bedroom, $4,200 a month. That's triple what I pay now. So, you can afford it with your savings. It's time to stop being stingy. My savings? I know you have at least $30 saved. I saw your bank statement. When did you see my bank statement? It was on your desk. The point is, you have money just sitting there. Dominic invests in his lifestyle. That's why he attracts success. And you want me to use my savings for a luxury apartment? For us? For our future? Or are you too nice to make a power move? I'll think about it. Think? A real man would just do it. That afternoon, while she was at her yoga class, credit card showed a charge at a wine bar. I made some power moves of my own. First, canceled the emergency credit card, reported it stolen. The bank asked about recent charges. Me, those aren't mine. Please flag them as fraudulent. Bank, we'll send you a new card and investigate the charges. Actually, don't send a new card. I'm closing the account after this is resolved. Second, called my landlord, Mr. Johnson. We'd built a good relationship over 5 years, always paid early, fixed minor issues myself, helped his elderly mother with groceries. Mr. Johnson, I need to discuss something. My girlfriend wants to move out. Oh no, you're leaving? Just her. I'd like to stay, but I need to update the lease situation. She's not on the lease, right? Just you? Correct, but I want to make sure everything's proper if she moves out. Marcus, you're my best tenant. You stay as long as you want. Same rent. Actually, I was going to raise it next year, but for you, we keep it the same. Really? You help my mother every week during her recovery. You think I forget? Good tenants who are also good people? Rare. Sometimes being nice pays off in ways the Dominics of the world don't understand. That evening, Maya came home furious. Maya, my card got declined. At dinner. Do you know how embarrassing that was? The emergency card. Oh, that. Yeah, it was compromised. Lots of weird charges. Banks investigating. Compromised? Those were my charges. For emergencies? $200 dinners are emergencies. It was a networking dinner with Dominic and the team. Just you and Dominic, according to the receipt. Table for 2. Freezing. You've been spying on me? No, just paying attention. Something a pushover might do. This is financial abuse. You can't just cut me off. From my credit card? Sure I can. She stomped off, slammed the bedroom door, got a text an hour later. Staying at Layla's tonight, you've shown your true colors. Okay. Spent the evening packing her things, methodically, carefully. Everything she brought into my apartment, everything she'd bought with her money, folded it all neatly. Professional moving boxes, bubble wrap for breakables, even printed labels. Nice doesn't mean stupid. Kind doesn't mean weak. It means choosing to be gentle when you could be harsh, until someone mistakes that choice for inability. Update 2. The unraveling. Maya stayed at Layla's for 3 days. The text started almost immediately. Day 1. Maya, I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything with your petty revenge. Me, what's ruined? Don't play dumb. You know what you did. Me canceled a credit card that was being misused. I needed that for my career development. Wine bars are career development? Read no response. Day 2. Dominic thinks you're being controlling. He says this is classic toxic behavior. Dominic's opinion matters. Why? He's successful. He understands ambition. Me, he understands something, clearly. What's that supposed to mean? Me, nothing. Enjoy your stay at Layla's. Day 3. We need to talk, like adults. Can I come by tonight? Me, sure. 7 p.m. She showed up at 6:30. Power move, probably. I was ready. Maya walked in and stopped dead. Her things were boxed up, stacked neatly by the door. What is this? Your belongings. Figured you'd need them at your new place. My new place? I'm not moving out. I'm just giving you space to realize your mistakes. No mistakes here. You want a luxury apartment, someone who takes charge, someone more like Dominic. I'm setting you free to find that. You can't just kick me out. I live here. You're not on the lease. You've been staying as my guest. That arrangement is ending. After 3 years? You'd throw me out over a credit card? Not the credit card, the contempt, the disrespect, the dinners with Dominic while lying about team meetings, the belief that kindness is weakness. I never cheated on you. Me. Didn't say you did, but you checked out of this relationship the moment you decided I was too nice to respect. She tried tears, then anger, then bargaining. I'll pay back the credit card charges. With what? Your maxed out cards? I'm getting promoted. Me. To Dominic's department? How's that interview process work exactly? You're twisting everything. Dominic is just helping my career. At hotels? During team dinners that no one else attends? She switched tactics. Fine. You want me to move? You'll need to formally evict me. That takes months. I know my rights. You're right. You've established tenancy, which is why I'm offering you this. Handed her a document. Cash for keys agreement. I'll give you $2,000 to move out by Sunday. Peaceful transition, no eviction on your record. 2,000? That's nothing. Me, it's 2 months rent at a reasonable place, or we do formal eviction and good luck renting with that on your record. This is extortion. This is business. Something Dominic would understand. Her phone rang. Dominic. She declined it. Me, shouldn't you take that? Might be about your promotion. Shut up. Her phone rang again. This time she answered, walked to the corner. Whispering, not now, I can't. No, he won't. I said not now. Came back looking shaken. You've ruined everything. Dominic says if I can't handle my personal life, I'm not ready for the position. Me, sounds like he's taking charge, being ruthless, all those things you admire. You did this on purpose. I packed your things and offered you money to leave peacefully. Pretty nice considering. She signed the agreement. Spite and desperation make powerful motivators. Update 3. The fallout moving day was educational. Maya recruited Layla and 2 friends to help. They showed up ready for war. Layla, you should be ashamed. 3 years and you throw her out like trash? Me, she's leaving with $2,000 and all her belongings intact. That's hardly trash treatment. Friend number 1, she said you financially abused her. Me, by canceling my own credit card? Friend number 2, you isolated her from opportunities. Which opportunities? The ones at hotels with her married coworker? That shut them up. Maya hadn't mentioned Dominic was married. Funny how details like that get lost in the victim narrative. As they loaded boxes, Maya kept trying to take things that weren't hers. Maya, holding my coffee maker. I bought this. Receipt says I bought it. 2 years before we met. What about the TV? Also mine. Here's the Best Buy receipt. The couch? Me, mine. Delivered before you moved in. I have photos. She was testing, seeing what she could guilt me into giving her. The nice guy she thought she knew would have caved, but I just smiled and showed receipts. You documented everything? That's creepy. Me. It's organized, some of us keep records. The real entertainment started after they left. Within hours, the social media campaign began. Maya's Instagram story, when you waste 3 years on someone who turns cold-hearted the moment you try to better yourself. Narcissistic abuse, starting over, know your worth. Her friends piled on with supportive comments. You deserve better. His loss. Real men support growth. I didn't respond, but I did notice something interesting. Dominic didn't like or comment on any of it. His wife probably followed Maya's account. Then came the workplace drama. Got a LinkedIn notification. Maya updated her job title to Senior Marketing Coordinator at Dominic's company. The promotion she'd been so sure about. A former coworker of mine who worked there messaged me, "Dude, your ex is here now, already causing drama." Dominic's wife showed up at the office yesterday. Security had to get involved. Me, not my circus anymore. Him, she's telling everyone you were abusive, but Dominic's assistant is spreading the real story. Those team dinners were just them, everyone knows. 3 days later, Maya's LinkedIn showed her back at her old position. The promotion had evaporated along with Dominic's interest once his wife got involved. But the best part came a week later. Text from an unknown number. Unknown. This is Dominic. We need to talk about Maya. Me. No, we don't. Unknown. She's saying you have photos of us together, threatening to send them to my wife. I have credit card statements showing dinners. No photos. Not my problem either way. Can we meet? Man to man? I'll make it worth your while. Pass. I'll pay you $5 to talk to my wife. Tell her nothing happened. Your wife's assumptions aren't my responsibility. You're really gonna be a duck about this? I'm being nice. A different person might forward these texts to your wife. Show her how you're trying to buy silence. Unknown. That's blackmail. Me. That's consequences. Don't contact me again. Blocked him, but screenshotted everything first, just in case. Final update, 6 months later. Life has a way of teaching lessons to those who refuse to learn them. Maya's story became a cautionary tale I heard through the grapevine. After the Dominic situation imploded, she bounced around, crashed with friends until they got tired of the drama, dated a series of alpha guys who treated her exactly like she thought she wanted. No kindness, all ego. Turns out being with someone who takes what they want isn't fun when you're what they take from. Last I heard directly from her was a 2 a.m. text 3 months after she moved out. Maya, I misjudged everything. You weren't weak, you were confident enough to be kind. I see that now. Okay. That's it? Okay, I'm trying to apologize. Apology noted. Can we talk? I've grown, I understand what really matters now. I'm glad you've grown, but we have nothing to discuss. You're really going to be this cold? I'm being direct. You prefer that to niceness, remember? She tried calling. Didn't answer. She left a voicemail about how she'd been manipulated by toxic masculinity and lost sight of real values. How Dominic had preyed on her ambition. Zero accountability. Still everyone else's fault. Heard the rest through mutual acquaintances. She'd burned through the $2,000 in 3 weeks, staying at hotels because she'd alienated most of her friends with her drama. Applied for credit cards but got denied due to her maxed-out existing cards. Dominic had been transferred to another office after his wife filed for divorce. Maya tried to sue him for workplace manipulation, but had no case since she'd pursued him as eagerly as he'd pursued her. She moved back to her hometown, living with her parents at 26. Meanwhile, my life improved dramatically. Without someone constantly criticizing my niceness, I realized how toxic the relationship had been. Got another promotion. Turns out being reliable and easy to work with matters more than playing corporate games. Started dating Rebecca, a teacher who appreciates kindness. She actually thanks me for considering her feelings. Mr. Johnson introduced me to his nephew who needed a roommate. Great guy, pays his half on time, respects boundaries. Save an extra $1,200 first month, not subsidizing someone else's lifestyle. The kicker came last month. Was at a coffee shop when I overheard 2 women talking at the next table. Woman 1. My friend Maya learned the hard way. Thought her boyfriend was weak because he was nice. Left him for some alpha douche. Woman 2. How'd that work out? Woman 1. The alpha was married, dumped her once his wife found out. The nice guy? Threw her out immediately. Turns out he wasn't weak, just kind, until she gave him a reason not to be. Woman 2. Bet she regrets that. Every day. Says it's the worst mistake she ever made. The guy she called too nice was actually the strongest person she knew. Just didn't need to prove it until she forced him to. Didn't reveal I was sitting there. Just smiled into my coffee. Maya was right about one thing. Nice guys do finish last sometimes. But that's because we're patient enough to let the assholes eliminate themselves first. She thought kindness was my weakness. Turned out it was my strength. I was nice enough to give her exactly what she asked for. A life without my pathetic kindness in it. The irony? She spent so much time teaching me to be ruthless that when I finally was, it was with her. One calculated, strategic removal of someone who mistook gentleness for inability. Now she gets to live with the knowledge that the pushover she disrespected had the power to end everything whenever he wanted. He just chose not to. Until she made it clear that kindness was wasted on her. Some people need to lose something good to understand its value. Maya wanted a man who takes charge. I took charge of my life by removing her from it. Methodically, legally, completely. Being nice doesn't mean being a doormat. It means having the strength to choose kindness and the wisdom to know when someone no longer deserves it.
It was just a trip thing, but he made me feel something I haven't felt in years, she justified. So I nodded and let her pack. Now she's stranded broke in Vegas, begging for a ticket home, but I've already vanished. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. Throwaway account because this story still stings a bit, even though I'm way past it now. I'm 28M, and this is about my ex-girlfriend Zoe, 27F, of 4 years. We met in college, back when life felt full of promise. I was studying IT, grinding through late nights to get my degree, and she was in marketing, always the social butterfly with big dreams of traveling and building her own brand. From the start, I was all in. Loyal to a fault, you know? I saw us as a team, building something real together. We moved in together right after graduation, into this cozy apartment in our quiet Midwestern town. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. I landed a solid job as a systems analyst at a local tech firm, stable pay, benefits, the whole 9 yards. Zoe, though, she struggled a bit at first. Entry-level gigs in her field didn't pay much, and she hated the grind. So I stepped up. I covered most of the rent, handled the bills, even picked up extra freelance coding gigs on weekends to make sure she could chase her passions without stress. You've got this, I'd tell her. Focus on what lights you up. I've got us. And she did light up. Over the years, I encouraged her to build her side hustle, a lifestyle blog about travel and self-discovery. I'd proofread her posts, help with the tech side like setting up her website, and yeah, fund a lot of it. Remember that time she wanted to attend a marketing conference in Chicago? I skipped a work retreat to drive her there myself, then waited in the hotel lobby with my laptop, knocking out code while she networked. Or the birthday surprise when I saved up for months to buy her that fancy camera she eyed. She squealed and hugged me so tight, whispering, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Moments like that made it all worth it. I wasn't flashy, I was reliable. The guy who showed up every time. But looking back, maybe I was too reliable, too predictable. Zoe started talking more about adventure and spontaneity. She'd scroll through social media, liking posts about exotic trips and glamorous lives, and I'd catch her sighing. "Our routine is so safe," she'd say sometimes, half joking. I brushed it off, thinking it was just stress from her job. To spice things up, I suggested we plan a vacation together, but she always had reasons why it wasn't the right time. Then, about 6 months ago, her best friends organized a girls' trip to Vegas. "It's just what I need," she said, eyes sparkling. "A break from the everyday grind." I didn't love the idea. Vegas has that wild reputation, but I trusted her. Hell, I even transferred money to her account to cover extras. "Have fun, babe. Just stay safe," I texted as she boarded the plane. She was gone for 5 days. Texts were sporadic at first. "Miss you." Cocktails by the pool. Then, radio silence for a whole evening. When she finally replied, it was clipped. "Crazy night. Talk tomorrow." I didn't push. I figured she was just hungover or busy. But when she got back, something was off. She hugged me at the airport, but it felt mechanical. Her laugh was forced. That night, in bed, she turned away early, claiming jet lag. Over the next week, she was distant, always on her phone, smiling at the screen in a way that twisted my gut. I'd ask about the trip, and she'd give vague answers. "Oh, you know, shows and slots. Nothing special." I tried to reconnect. Cooked her favorite dinner, suggested a movie night. But she kept pulling away. One evening, I noticed her phone buzzing nonstop while she showered. Curiosity got the better of me. Yeah, I know, snooping isn't cool, but the red flags were piling up. I glanced at her messages. There it was, a thread with some guy named Jake. Flirty emojis, inside jokes about that wild night at the club. Photos from Vegas, her laughing with him at a bar, his arm around her waist. And worse, recent text planning calls, him calling her my spark. My heart dropped. She'd hooked up with him there, and it hadn't stopped. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like the floor had vanished. For years, all those sacrifices, postponing my own career moves to support hers, like turning down a better job out of state because she wasn't ready to relocate. The late nights I'd spent fixing her blog when it crashed, or comforting her through job rejections. I'd given everything, thinking we were building a future. And now this. Betrayal doesn't even cover it. It was like she'd erased us with a single trip. I put the phone back, composed myself, and waited. I wasn't going to explode, that wasn't me. But I needed answers. The next day, I couldn't hold it in anymore. We were in the living room, her scrolling on her laptop, me pretending to work. "Zoe," I said calmly, "we need to talk about Vegas." She looked up, and for a split second, guilt flashed across her face. Then, it hardened into defensiveness. She set her laptop aside, crossing her arms. "What about it?" Her tone was sharp, like I'd accused her of something outrageous. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. "I saw the texts. With Jake. The photos, the plans. You hooked up with him, didn't you? And it's still going on." She didn't flinch, didn't deny it. Instead, she leaned back, sighing like I was the one being dramatic. "Okay, fine. Yeah, it happened. We met at a club on the Strip. My friends ditched early, and he was there. Charming, fun. One thing led to another. It was just supposed to be a trip thing, a fling. But he made me feel something I haven't felt in years." I stared at her, the words hitting like punches. "Something you haven't felt? What does that even mean?" "We've been together 4 years, Zoe. I thought we were solid." She rolled her eyes, actually rolled them, and stood up, pacing a little. "Solid? Alex, come on. We're like roommates at this point. You go to work, come home, we watch TV, repeat. It's comfortable, sure, but where's the excitement? The passion? Jake, he's different. He's adventurous, spontaneous. We talked all night about dreams, travel, living big. He and I, we have a spark. A real one. I have to see where it goes." Her words twisted like a knife. "Roommates? After everything?" I felt the anger bubbling, but I swallowed it. No begging, no yelling. That's not how I handle things. "So that's it. You're justifying cheating because I'm what, too stable? I supported you through everything, your blog, your jobs, this trip I paid for. And now you're throwing it away for some guy you met in a casino." She stopped pacing, turning to me with that smug look, like she'd already won the argument in her head. "Don't make this about money, Alex. That's low. This isn't about you being bad, you're not. You're just safe. Predictable. I need more. I've been feeling stuck, and Vegas opened my eyes. Jake gets that. He's talking about me visiting him soon, maybe even moving out there. We could build something exciting. You and I, we've plateaued. It's not fair to either of us to drag it out. Hypocrisy at its finest. She used my stability to fund her self-discovery, then mocked it as boring. Plateaued. Zoe, relationships aren't always fireworks. We built something real. Or at least, I thought we did." She shrugged, dismissive. "See? That's the twisted logic. You think real means settling. I deserve sparks, Alex. Adventure. Jake makes me feel alive. I'm sorry if that hurts, but I have to choose me." She paused, then added with a cruel edge, "Besides, you'd be fine. You're always so composed. You'll land on your feet." I nodded slowly, the decision forming. No confrontation, no outburst. Just detachment. "If that's how you feel, then go. See where it goes." Her eyes widened a bit. Maybe she expected me to fight. "Really? Just like that?" "Yeah," I said, standing up. "Just like that." I walked to the bedroom, started pulling out her suitcase from the closet. She followed, watching in silence as I calmly helped her pack. No words, no pleas. Inside, I was shattered, but I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing it. That night, she booked a flight. By morning, she was gone. After she left, the apartment felt like a ghost town. Echoes of her everywhere, her favorite mug in the cabinet, the half-empty bottle of shampoo in the shower. I didn't trash it all in a rage. That wasn't my style. Instead, I methodically boxed up her leftover stuff, labeled it neatly, and stashed it in the hall closet. Then, I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, letting the silence sink in. No tears, no drunken calls to friends. Just me, processing the unfairness of it all. The first few days were the hardest. I'd wake up reaching for her side of the bed, only to remember. Confusion hit hard. How could 4 years evaporate over a weekend fling? I replayed our history in my mind, those little sacrifices that added up. Like the time her car broke down during a snowstorm, and I trudged out at 2 a.m. to jump it, freezing my ass off while she waited warm inside. Or when she lost her job last year. I tightened the budget, cut my own luxuries, and reassured her daily. We'll get through this together. She'd cry on my shoulder, promise we'd always have each other's backs. Now, she was chasing sparks with a stranger, dismissing me as a roommate. It stung, the betrayal wrapping around the emotional abandonment. I'd been her safety net, and she'd cut the ropes without a second thought. But I didn't spiral. I took a personal day from work, then dove back in. Focused on routines, gym in the mornings, which I'd neglected to make time for her schedules. I started running trails outside town, the kind with hills that burned my lungs and cleared my head. Therapy helped too. I booked sessions online, talking through the manipulation without badmouthing her. She twisted our stability into a flaw, I told the counselor. Made me feel like my loyalty was boring. It was validating to hear it wasn't me. Slowly, the vulnerability faded. I wasn't confused anymore. I was clear. This wasn't a loss, it was a dodge. I dodged a life with someone who saw commitment as settling. Weeks turned into a month. I detached fully, changed the locks, just in case. Unfollowed her on everything, blocked mutuals who might feed drama. No checking her blog or socials. That chapter was closed. Instead, I poured energy into me. Landed a promotion at work, senior analyst, with a raise that let me finally upgrade my setup. Bought a new desk, some plants for the apartment. Even started planning my own trip, solo, to the mountains. Friends noticed the shift. "You seem lighter," one said over beers. I nodded. Turns out, being a roommate gave me room to breathe. In the quiet moments, though, the unfairness lingered. She'd publicly, well, to our circle, framed it as mutual, but whispers got back. A buddy mentioned seeing her post vague stories about new beginnings and following your heart. It felt like disrespect, erasing my role in her life. But I didn't engage. No vague booking, no rants. Dignity meant walking away clean. I sat with the pain, let it breathe, until it became background noise. By 2 months in, I was sleeping through the night, smiling at work. The arc was rising. I'd come so far from that shattered guy on the couch. Zoe. She was becoming a distant memory, irrelevant to the peace I'd built. Then, karma crept in, slow at first, like a storm building on the horizon. I didn't seek it out, it found me through the grapevine. About 3 months after she left, a mutual friend, let's call him Mike, one of the few I hadn't cut ties with, texted me out of the blue. "Hey man, heard about Zoe. You okay?" I replied neutrally, and he spilled. Apparently, she'd quit her job here impulsively, packed up, and moved to Vegas to be with Jake. Full commitment, Mike said. Posted all these pics of them at shows, casinos. Looked happy. I didn't pry, but bits trickled in over weeks. Another friend mentioned her blog updates, glowing posts about desert adventures and soul connections. It was ironic, her chasing that spark in a city built on illusions. Then, the cracks showed. Mike called one evening. "Dude, it's bad." Jake turned out to be a total scammer. From what pieced together, Jake wasn't the charming adventurer she'd painted. He was a grifter, preying on tourists and transplants. Convinced her to invest in his business venture, some vague scheme about event planning in Vegas. She wired him most of her savings, the money I'd helped her build up. It unraveled fast. He cleaned out her account, ghosted her, and vanished. Police report filed, but good luck in a place like that. Scams are a dime a dozen. She was stranded. No job. She'd burned bridges, quitting without notice. No money. Rent due on a crappy apartment she'd signed for. No support. Her friends back home? They'd stopped defending her after the truth leaked. "We warned her," Mike said. But she was so smug about it. Isolation hit hard. She'd alienated our circle with her justifications, and Vegas wasn't the welcoming paradise she'd imagined. Hated the heat, the crowds, the loneliness. Her blog went silent, replaced by desperate job hunts online. It felt earned, realistic. Not some cartoon villain downfall, but consequences of her choices. Ditching stability for a fake thrill, manipulating our history to justify it. I didn't gloat, just noted the irony. She discarded me like a backup plan, and now she was the one unraveled, broke, alone, in a city that chewed her up. The attempt started small, about a week after the scam blew up. First, a text from an unknown number. Hers, I guessed, since I'd blocked her old one. Alex, it's Zoe. I need to talk. Made a huge mistake. I stared at it, feeling nothing but mild annoyance. No response. Then calls, voicemails piling up. I listened to one. Please pick up. Things went wrong with Jake. He took everything. I'm stuck here. Can we just talk? I miss us. Desperation ramped up. More texts. I know I hurt you, but I was confused. Vegas was a wake-up call. You're the real deal. Then, her best friend Sarah got involved. Toxic as ever, the one who'd encouraged the trip. My phone rang one afternoon at work. I answered, thinking it was a client. Alex? It's Sarah. Listen, Zoe's in a bad spot. That guy's a creep. Stole her money, left her high and dry. She's crashing on a couch, scraping by with gig work. You need to help her. I kept my tone even. Sarah, that's not my responsibility anymore. She huffed, unpleasant edge sharpening. Oh, come on. After 4 years, you're just gonna abandon her? She said you were always the reliable one. Prove it. Send some cash, or at least talk to her. She's crying every night. Hypocrisy dripped from her words. Abandon her? Like Zoe hadn't abandoned me? She chose this path. I'm out. I hung up, blocked her too. Zoe escalated. Emails now, since texts weren't working. Alex, please. I see now how good we had it. Your stability? I took it for granted. Jake was fake, abusive in ways I didn't see coming. Yelled at me, controlled everything before bolting. I'm isolated here. No friends, no family nearby. Help me get home. No sympathy from me. Then, her family jumped in. Her mom texted from a number I didn't recognize. This is Zoe's mother. How dare you ignore her? She's your girlfriend, ex or not. You owe her after all she put up with. Your boring routine drove her away, and now she's suffering. Wire money for a ticket. Be a man. Unpleasant didn't cover it. Blaming me for Zoe's choices? I replied once. She ended us. Not my circus. Blocked. Zoe's attempts turned angry after that. A late-night voicemail. Fine, ignore me. But you're heartless, Alex. I gave you the best years of my life, and this is how you repay? Oh me? Yeah, you do, for the emotional support, the love. Jake exposed what a fool I was, but you're worse for ghosting now. Pick up. Power reversal clear, from smug dismissal to desperate blame. Her true colors shone, manipulative, entitled. Friends who defended her initially? Silent now, the truth out. I stayed detached, no engagement. She'd become increasingly frantic, but to me, just noise. One evening, months into my new normal, the phone rang, blocked number. I answered anyway, curiosity mild. It was her, voice cracking from the start. Alex? Oh God, finally. It's Zoe. Please don't hang up. I'm begging. I'm at rock bottom, evicted yesterday, sleeping in a motel I can't afford past tonight. No money for food, let alone a plane ticket home. Jake, he ruined me. Abusive texts before he disappeared, drained my accounts. I'm alone, scared. Can you wire me enough for a flight? I'll pay you back, I swear. We can talk when I'm back. Fix things. She sobbed, the desperation raw. I know I was cruel, dismissive, but I see now, you were my anchor. I threw it away for nothing. Please, help me home. I have no one else. I listened in silence, the minutes stretching. No words from me. Her pleas filled the air. Alex? Say something. I'm sorry. Truly. Let me make it right. Click. I hung up. That was it. Changed my number the next day, vanished completely from her reach. No final speech, no closure for her. She was irrelevant now, powerless in my world. I'd built something better. Promotion, thriving, new apartment with a view, even dating casually. Someone who values stability as strength. Her betrayal? A lesson that freed me. She's a ghost from a past I don't revisit. Emotionally, I'm miles ahead, happy, whole, without her echo. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments. I wasted my 20s on you, she said before moving in with him. So I blocked her and left the state. She showed up at my engagement party begging for another chance. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, Please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I came home 3 days early from a work trip to surprise Vanessa. We'd been together for 6 years, since we were 23, and I'd been thinking about proposing soon. I had the ring already. Custom-made, exactly what she described years ago when we talked about getting married someday. The apartment was quiet when I opened the door. Not empty quiet. Tense quiet. Vanessa was in our bedroom, packing a suitcase. Not the small one she used for weekends. The big one. The one we'd bought together for our trip to Europe that we'd been saving for. "Hey," I said from the doorway. "What's going on?" She jumped, spun around. For a second, she looked guilty. Then her face hardened into something I'd never seen before. Irritation. Like I'd interrupted something important. "You're back early," she said flatly. "Meetings wrapped up faster than expected. I wanted to surprise you." I stepped into the room, looking at the suitcase, at the clothes she was folding with deliberate care. "Where are you going?" She sighed. Actually sighed. Like I was being difficult. "Marcus, we need to talk." Those 4 words. I felt my stomach drop. "Okay," I said carefully. "Let's talk." She kept packing. Wouldn't look at me. "I'm moving out. I've been meaning to tell you, but the timing was never right." "Moving out? What do you mean moving out? Did something happen? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. More than fine, actually." She zipped up a makeup bag. "I've been seeing someone else." The words hit me like physical objects. I actually took a step back. "What?" "Dylan. From work." "Well, not my work. He's in pharmaceutical sales. We met at that networking event 4 months ago. Remember when I came home late that Thursday?" For months. For months. You've been cheating on me for 4 months?" "Don't say it like that. We grew apart, Marcus. You have to have felt it too." I didn't feel anything wrong. I thought we were happy. I thought. I stopped, trying to organize thoughts that were scattering like dropped papers. "Why didn't you just talk to me? If you were unhappy, we could have worked on it. We could have gone to counseling or, oh my God, Marcus." "Counseling?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "That's so like you. Your solution to everything is to process it to death. Talk about it until it makes sense. Some things don't make sense. Some things just are." "Vanessa, we've been together for 6 years." 6 years. You don't just throw that away without even trying to. "I'm not throwing anything away." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold. Distant. "I wasted my 20s on you. Looking at you now, I don't even recognize the girl who thought you were worth it." The words hung in the air between us. I couldn't speak. Couldn't process what I'd just heard. She kept going. "Do you know what my friends say when we all get together? When they're talking about their boyfriends taking them to Miami, to Cabo, on spontaneous weekend trips? I have to talk about how we're saving for a house. How we stay in on Saturdays to meal prep for the week. Do you know how pathetic that sounds? We agreed to save for a house. You said you wanted. I said what I thought I wanted at 23. I'm 28 now, Marcus. I'm not the same person. And frankly, neither are you. Except you kind of are. That's the problem. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm saying we go to bed at 10 p.m. on Saturdays. Dylan actually knows how to have fun. He's spontaneous. He's exciting. When I'm with him, I feel like I'm in my 20s, not cosplaying as someone's suburban wife in training." Each word was a cut, clean and precise. "You told me last month you loved our life," I said quietly. I was lying to myself. Or maybe to you. I don't know anymore. But I'm done pretending this is enough. You're planning for a future I don't even want. A house in the suburbs? Kids by 30? Marcus, I'm suffocating. I need more than this. More than you." I stood there, watching her pack. Watching 6 years get folded into a suitcase like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. "So that's it. You're just leaving." "Dylan's picking me up in 20 minutes. I'll come back for the rest of my stuff next week when you're at work." "I think it's easier that way." "Easier for who?" She didn't answer. Just kept packing. I walked to the living room. Sat on the couch we'd picked out together at IKEA. Assembled together at midnight because we couldn't wait. I heard her moving around in the bedroom. Heard her phone buzz. Heard her laugh at something. She was texting him. While I sat 15 feet away, she was texting him. 20 minutes later, she rolled her suitcase through the living room. I didn't look up. "I'll text you about when to get my stuff," she said. I didn't respond. "Marcus, don't be like this. We can be adults about it." I looked at her then. Really looked at her. And I realized I was looking at a stranger. "Get out, Vanessa." "Excuse me." "You heard me. Get out." She opened her mouth to say something, thought better of it, and left. I went to the window, watched a silver Audi pull up, watched Dylan get out, tall, tan, expensive haircut, watched him hug her, kiss her, load her suitcase into his trunk like he'd done it 100 times before, watched them drive away. Then I sat in the dark for 3 hours, not moving, not thinking. Just existing in the space between who I was that morning and whoever I was going to have to become. The next day, I called in sick. Not sick, devastated. But I told my boss I had food poisoning. I started packing. Systematically. Methodically. Everything that was mine went into boxes. Everything that was hers, I left exactly where it was. I called the landlord. Explained the situation. He was surprisingly understanding. Said his wife had done something similar to him years ago. Let me break the lease with 60 days notice. I called my friend Alex. Hey man, I need a favor. Can I crash at your place for a while? Of course. Everything okay? Vanessa left me. For someone else. I'll explain later. Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. Come over whenever. I packed my car. Took one last look at the apartment. At the life I'd thought I was building. Then I left my key on the counter and walked out. At Alex's place, he tried to get me to talk about it. To rage, to cry, to do something. You're being too calm about this, Marcus. It's weird. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Be pissed. Get drunk. Key his car. Something. What's the point? The point is she cheated on you for 4 months and then said you wasted her 20s. The point is that's fucked up. Yeah, I said. It is. But I didn't feel angry. I felt hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just the shell walking around. The next day, I blocked Vanessa's number. Blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, everything. Didn't send a message. Didn't explain. Just blocked. Then I deleted the apps from my phone entirely. I didn't want to know what she was posting. Didn't want to see her and Dylan living the exciting life she'd left me for. Didn't want to torture myself with evidence of how replaceable I'd been. I went to work. Came home. Went to the gym. Came home. Repeat. Alex mentioned after a week that Vanessa was posting constantly with Dylan. Fancy restaurants every night. They went to Nashville last weekend. She's posting like, a lot. Like she's proving something. Good for her, I said. You don't want to see? No. You don't even care? I don't know what I feel, Alex. But looking at her being happy with him isn't going to help me figure it out. 2 months passed in a blur. Work. Gym. Sleep. I was functioning. That was about all I could say. Then my boss called me into his office. Marcus, we're opening a new division in Seattle. I want you to head the project management team. It's a promotion, senior PM, substantial raise, full relocation package. Seattle? That's across the country. I know it's a big move, but I think you're ready for it. And honestly, you seem like you could use a fresh start. He didn't say he knew about Vanessa, but he knew. Office gossip travels fast when you work with your girlfriend's former coworkers' friends. When would I start? 6 weeks. Is that enough time? I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yeah, I'll do it. That night, I felt something other than numbness for the first time in weeks. Not happiness, not excitement, but something like possibility. I was getting out. Seattle was cold and gray and perfect. Nobody knew me. Nobody knew my story. Nobody looked at me with pity or asked carefully neutral questions about how I was holding up. I threw myself into work. 12-hour days. Weekends at the office. My team was new, the projects were challenging, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was actually present in my own life instead of watching it happen to someone else. I joined a new gym. Started rock climbing. Picked up photography on weekends. Not because I was trying to become a new person, just because I could. Because there was no one telling me we needed to save money. No one rolling their eyes when I spent money on myself. 5 months after the breakup, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, can we talk? I stared at it. Knew immediately it was Vanessa. She must have gotten my new number from someone, probably Alex, though I'd told him not to give it out. I didn't respond. The next day, I know you're getting these. The day after, you could at least respond. We were together for 6 years. Then, Dylan and I are taking a break. I've been thinking about everything. Then, I made some mistakes. Can we just talk? Please. I read each one. Felt nothing. Deleted them. Changed my number the following week. 2 months later, Alex called. Dude, I ran into Vanessa yesterday. Okay. She looks rough, man. Like really rough. She asked about you. What did you tell her? That you moved to Seattle and you're doing well. Was that okay? It's fine. What else did she say? She said Dylan dumped her. Said she found out he was seeing other girls the whole time they were together. Said she moved back in with her parents. She was crying. It was actually kind of sad. That's rough, I said, and meant it, in the same way I'd mean it hearing about a stranger's bad luck. That's it. That's all you've got. What do you want me to say, Alex? I don't know. Something. She destroyed you. And now she's destroyed. I thought you'd feel something. I feel bad for her. But that's not my problem to solve. She asked for your number. Don't give it to her. I didn't. But Marcus, she's really messed up. I think she realizes what she lost. Good. Maybe that's what she needed to realize. A week later, my phone rang. Different number. I answered thinking it was work. Marcus? Please don't hang up. Vanessa's voice. Shaking. Crying. How did you get this number? I called your office. Told them I was your sister and it was a family emergency. Please, I just need to talk to you. I should have hung up. Should have blocked this number too. But something kept me on the line. Not hope. Curiosity, maybe. I'm listening. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Marcus, Dylan wasn't who I thought he was. He was seeing other women the whole time. He never took me seriously. I was just something fun for him. I'm sorry that happened to you. I've been thinking about us. About what we had. I threw away something real for something that was fake. I see that now. Okay. Okay. That's all you're going to say. What do you want me to say, Vanessa? I want you to say you forgive me. I want you to say we can try again. That we can fix this. I'm seeing someone. Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. You're what? I'm seeing someone. Her name is Sarah. We met through work. It's been 10 months, Marcus. You left me for someone you'd been with for 4 months. 10 months seems reasonable. This is different. We were together for 6 years. You can't just replace that. I'm not replacing anything. I'm moving forward. With someone you barely know. I know her well enough. She's kind. She's honest. She doesn't make me feel like I'm not enough. Marcus, please. I know I hurt you. I know I said terrible things. But I was confused. I was scared of settling down. I thought I wanted something else, but I didn't. I wanted you. I've always wanted you. You wanted me after everything else fell apart. That's not the same thing. So that's it. After everything we had, 6 years means nothing to you. You said you wasted your 20s on me. I decided not to waste my 30s on someone who thought that. I paused. I don't think about you anymore, Vanessa. That's not true. That can't be true. It is. I hope you figure out what you want. But it's not going to be with me. Take care of yourself. I hung up. Blocked the number. Sat there for a minute, waiting to feel something. Guilt. Regret. Satisfaction. But I just felt tired. For months later, Vanessa's mom called. I almost didn't answer, but some old reflex kicked in. I'd always liked her mom. Marcus, honey, it's Patricia. Hi, Patricia. How are you? I'm all right. Listen, I know this is awkward, but I wanted to talk to you about Vanessa. I don't think that's a good idea. She's really struggling, Marcus. She made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we all thought you two were perfect together. She's realized what she lost. She just needs a chance to make it right. With respect, Patricia, that's not my responsibility anymore. She needs closure, Marcus. You just disappeared. You blocked her. You won't talk to her. That's not fair. She got exactly what she wanted. She left me for someone else. She told me she wasted 6 years with me. I think that's all the closure either of us needed. She didn't mean those things. She was confused. Maybe. But she said them. And I believed her. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. I hope Vanessa finds what she's looking for. I really do. But it's not going to be with me. Take care, Patricia. I ended the call. The next week, her best friend Hannah messaged me on LinkedIn. Apparently one of the few platforms I hadn't blocked her on. You're being really cold. She knows she messed up. Everyone makes mistakes. The Marcus I knew would have at least given her a chance to apologize properly. I blocked her too. Then came the email. Long single-spaced. Sent at 2:47 a.m. It started apologetic. How she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. How she thought about me every day. How she'd give anything to go back and make different choices. Then it turned. How I'd given up so easily. How I'd never fought for us. How I'd just disappeared like 6 years meant nothing. How I was cold. Emotionless. How maybe she'd been right. Maybe I'd never really loved her at all. Because someone who loved her would have fought to get her back. It ended with, "I guess I was right. You never really loved me anyway. You just loved the idea of me. The moment I stopped being convenient, you erased me. Maybe Dylan was a mistake, but at least he actually felt something." I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Felt absolutely nothing. 2 years after Vanessa walked out, I got invited to Jake's wedding. Jake was my buddy from college, one of the few people who'd stayed consistently in touch after I'd moved to Seattle. "You should bring Sarah," he said over the phone. "I want to meet this woman who's got you smiling again." I'll ask her. "Where's the wedding?" "Hartford. That's your hometown, right?" "Yeah. Haven't been back in a while." "Well, it'll be good to see you, man." Fair warning though, Vanessa's invited. She was Rachel's roommate in college. I wanted to give you a heads up in case that's weird. I paused, waited for the tightness in my chest. The anxiety. Something. "It's fine. That was a long time ago." "You sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure." And I was. Sarah and I flew out the weekend of the wedding. She'd met most of my Seattle friends, but this would be her first time meeting people from my old life. "Are you nervous?" she asked on the plane. "About seeing Vanessa?" "Not really. Not even a little. Honestly, I'm more nervous about you meeting Jake. He's going to tell you embarrassing stories about me from college." She squeezed my hand. "I already know you're a dork. Your college friend can't make it worse." This was what I hadn't known I was missing. Easy. Comfortable. Someone who made me laugh without trying. Someone who chose me every single day, not because I was convenient or safe, but because she actually wanted to. The engagement party was the night before the wedding. Open bar, fancy venue, all of Jake and Rachel's friends mixing together. Sarah looked incredible. Black dress, hair done, smiling at everyone like she'd known them for years. I introduced her around. Caught up with people I hadn't seen in years. I didn't see Vanessa at first. Wasn't looking for her. Then I went to get drinks, and she was there. At the bar. Alone. She looked diminished. That's the only word for it. Thinner. Tired. Her dress looked expensive but somehow wrong on her. Like she was wearing a costume. She saw me. Her face did something complicated. "Hey, Marcus." I turned. Genuinely surprised. "Vanessa." "Hi." Silence. Awkward and heavy. "You look good," she said finally. "Thanks. You too." Lie. "But what else do you say?" "How have you been?" she asked. "Good. Busy with work." "You?" "I'm okay. Better than I was. I'm actually doing PR for a startup now. It's small, but it's something." "That's good." More silence. "I got my drinks from the bartender." "Is that?" She nodded toward Sarah, who was laughing with Jake across the room. "My fiancée, Sarah? We're getting married in the fall." I watched her face. Watched something in it break. "Oh, that's wow. Congratulations." "Thank you." That was fast. 2 years isn't that fast. Right. Of course. I just meant, she stopped. Started again. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For how things ended. For what I said. I was really awful to you. It was a long time ago. Was it really? Sometimes it feels like yesterday. I didn't know what to say to that. "Do you ever think about us?" she asked quietly. "About what we could have been." I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I tried to find something. Some remnant of what I'd felt. Some echo of the person I'd been when I'd loved her. "Nothing. Not really," I said honestly. "That person you dated doesn't exist anymore. I think about it all the time. About you. About how stupid I was." Her voice cracked. "I threw away the best thing I ever had, Marcus. I know that now. I knew it the day Dylan left. I knew it every day after. I was so stupid. You made a choice. We both did. I don't blame you anymore. But do you forgive me?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yeah," I said. "I forgive you. But that doesn't change anything." "It could. We could try again." "We could." "Vanessa, no." "Why not? You forgave me. You just said, forgiving you doesn't mean I want you back. It means I stopped carrying what you did to me. That's for me, not for you. So that's it. You're just done?" After everything we had. Sarah appeared at my elbow then. Perfectly timed. "Hey, babe. Jake wants to do a toast soon." She smiled at Vanessa. "Hi, I'm Sarah." Vanessa stared at her. At me. At Sarah's hand on my arm. "Vanessa," she managed. "We used to date." "Oh." Sarah's smile didn't falter. "It's nice to meet you." They shook hands. I watched Vanessa's face as she took in Sarah. Watched her see what I'd found after her. Someone who looked at me like I was exactly enough. Someone who lit up when I walked into a room. Someone who'd chosen me and kept choosing me. We should get back, I said. Good to see you, Vanessa. Take care of yourself. I took Sarah's hand and walked away. Didn't look back. That night, Sarah asked me about it. That was her, wasn't it? The one who left you. Yeah. She's still in love with you. I know. Does that feel good? Like revenge? No. It just feels sad. For her. But not for you. Not for me. Not anymore. She kissed me. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Lucky me, I said. And meant it. The next day was the wedding. I was a groomsman, so I was busy most of the day. Saw Vanessa sitting at a table on the bride's side during the ceremony. Saw her watching me during the reception. I danced with Sarah. Laughed with Jake. Gave a speech about friendship and finding the right person being worth the wait. Never looked at Vanessa once. Not out of spite. Not out of some calculated power move. I just didn't think about her. Later, I was outside getting air when she found me. Marcus, please. Just one more minute. I sighed. Vanessa, you said you forgave me. Can you just listen? Really listen? Okay. 1 minute. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I said unforgivable things. But I need you to understand, I was terrified. Terrified of getting married young and having regrets. Terrified of never experiencing anything else. And Dylan represented all of that. He was the opposite of you. Exciting and dangerous and new. I understand that. Do you? Because I need you to know that leaving you was the worst decision I ever made. Every single day since has been worse than the one before. I lost you. I lost our future. I lost myself. And you just moved on. Like it was easy. Like I was nothing. It wasn't easy. And you weren't nothing. But I couldn't stay in love with someone who saw me as a waste of time. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. Maybe you regret it now. But in that moment, you meant every word. So what? I'm just supposed to live with that forever? With knowing I destroyed the best thing in my life. You're supposed to learn from it. And find someone who makes you feel the way Sarah makes me feel. What if there isn't anyone else? What if you were it? Then you'll be alone. And I'm sorry if that's the case. But Vanessa, I spent my 20s building a life with you. You told me those years were wasted. So I spent my 30s building a life I actually chose. A life with someone who thinks time with me is anything but a waste. She'll never know you like I did. You're right. She knows me better. She knows who I actually am, not who I was trying to be for someone who didn't appreciate it. Vanessa was crying now. Full on crying. I can't accept this. I can't accept that it's really over. It's been over for 2 years. You're the only one who hasn't accepted it. Because I love you. No, I said gently. You love the security I represented. You love the idea of not having to face what you did. But you don't love me. You don't even know me anymore. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Vanessa. You leaving wasn't fair. You cheating wasn't fair. You telling me I wasted your 20s wasn't fair. But it happened. And we both had to figure out how to live with it. I'm sorry you're still struggling. I really am. But I can't fix that for you. Sarah appeared in the doorway. Marcus? Jake's about to cut the cake. Coming. I looked at Vanessa one last time. I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. But it's not me. It hasn't been me for a long time. I walked back inside, took Sarah's hand, joined my friends at the cake table. Through the window, I could see Vanessa standing alone in the dark. Watching, Sarah leaned into me. You okay? Yeah, I said. And I was. The next morning, we flew back to Seattle. Back to our apartment with the view of the Sound. Back to our life together. Back to something real. People ask me sometimes if I ever got closure with Vanessa. If I ever got to say what I needed to say. I did. But not in the way they think. The closure wasn't in any conversation. It was in the moment I stopped needing her to understand. Stopped needing her to apologize. Stopped needing her at all. She thought she wasted her 20s on me. Maybe she did. But I didn't waste my 30s mourning someone who never deserved the best years of my life in the first place. That's the thing about people who leave you for someone else. They want to believe you'll fall apart. That you'll never find better. That they were your peak. The best revenge isn't making them regret it. It's building a life so good that you forget to care whether they regret it at all. Vanessa thought she was my story. The great love. The one that got away. But she was just my lesson. Sarah's my story. And it's a story I actually chose. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.
My cousin steals all my boyfriends just for fun, only to tell the whole family that they're no good and that she's more of a woman than me. Before continuing the story, Let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss more stories, and leave your like on the video. My cousin has always been like this. Ever since we were kids, she had this sick need to prove she was better than me at everything. But what hurt me most was her specialty: stealing my boyfriends. It wasn't for love or passion. It was pure entertainment. She'd seduce them, play with them for a few weeks, then discard them like broken toys. And in the end, in front of the whole family, she'd proclaim they weren't worth it anyway, and that I needed more self-esteem to get real men. This time would be different. It had to be. Oliver and I had been together for 6 months, the longest relationship I'd ever maintained. He was everything my family always wanted me to achieve: successful, handsome, educated. He worked at a consulting firm and had ambitious plans for the future. "Are you bringing him to Sunday dinner?" my mother asked over the phone, with that excitement she only showed when it came to something she could show off. "I'm still thinking about it," I replied, already knowing what was coming. "Honey, you can't keep hiding him forever. Your cousin will be there and she's been asking about him. She's doing so well after her divorce, you know. The settlement left her very comfortable and she has such an active social life." There it was. The comparison. My successful divorced cousin who lived luxuriously off her ex-husband's alimony while dating different men every week. The golden standard I could never reach. "I know, Mom. She just wants to meet him. She's family, Zoe. What harm could it do?" What harm? She'd systematically destroyed every relationship I'd had since high school. The pattern was always the same. She'd show interest, use her charm and experience to seduce them, make them feel like they were missing out by being with boring little me, then dump them and tell everyone how they weren't good enough for our family anyway. But I'd learned from past mistakes. This time, I'd prepared Oliver from the beginning. I'd told him about her methods, her pattern, her need to prove her superiority. I'd asked him to reject any attempts at contact on social media, to keep his distance, to remember that she wasn't interested in him as a person, just as another trophy to steal from me. "I'll tell her all about him when I see her," Oliver had said, laughing when I first explained the situation. "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." He thought it was funny, a family quirk. He had no idea what he was up against. My cousin had perfected her technique over the years. She knew exactly how to make a man feel special, desired, like he was settling for less. She'd start with social media, casual likes, then comments, then private messages. She'd find common interests, shared experiences, reasons they should meet for coffee just as family. But Oliver had been strong so far. He'd shown me every friend request she'd sent using different fake accounts on Snapchat. Every single one rejected. Every attempt to connect blocked immediately. "She's persistent," he'd said after the 5th fake account attempt. But also kind of pathetic. Don't you think? I wanted to believe he was immune. I wanted to believe that this time would be different, that I'd finally found someone who wouldn't fall for her games. The problem was my mother. In her excitement to show off my new boyfriend, she'd let slip our address during one of her conversations with my aunt. And my cousin, being who she was, saw that as an invitation. I should have known she'd find a way to get to him directly. The doorbell rang on a Tuesday afternoon when I was at work. Oliver was home taking calls for his consulting project when my cousin decided to make her move. "Someone's here to see you," he texted me. "Says she's your cousin?" My stomach dropped. "Don't let her in," I typed back frantically. "I'm serious. Just tell her I'm not home and you're busy." Too late. She's already inside. Says your mom gave her our address because she wanted to drop off something for you. Of course she did. My cousin had probably spun some story about a family heirloom or a birthday gift that couldn't wait. My mother, in her endless need to facilitate family connections, had practically rolled out the red carpet. I called Oliver immediately. "Get her out of there. Now. Relax, Zoe. She seems nice enough. We're just talking." That's exactly what I'm worried about. But Oliver had already hung up. For the next 3 hours, I sat at my desk, unable to concentrate on anything except what was happening in my apartment. I'd spent months preparing him for this moment, explaining her tactics, warning him about her methods. Yet here she was, in our space, working her magic while I was trapped 20 miles away in downtown traffic. When I finally got home, I found them sitting on opposite ends of our couch, both scrolling through their phones in what appeared to be comfortable silence. My cousin looked up with that innocent smile she'd perfected over the years. "Zoe, finally! I was just telling Oliver about the family cookbook Mom wanted me to give you." She held up a slim recipe book that I knew had been gathering dust in my aunt's kitchen for years. Oliver looked up from his phone, and I could see the irritation in his eyes. Good. That was good. She's been here for 3 hours, he said flatly. I kept telling her you weren't home, but she insisted on waiting. I just wanted to make sure you got this, my cousin said sweetly. And I thought it would be nice to finally meet the man who's made you so happy. The way she said happy made it sound like a temporary condition she could easily remedy. Well, now you've met him, I said, taking the cookbook. Thanks for bringing this by. She didn't move. Instead, she turned back to Oliver with renewed interest. I was just telling him about the business opportunities in this area. My ex-husband has connections all over the state, and I know Oliver's looking to expand his consulting work. My blood ran cold. She'd found his weakness, his ambition. In 3 hours, she'd managed to identify exactly what mattered most to him professionally and positioned herself as the key to his success. That's really not necessary, I said quickly. Oh, but it is, she continued, her eyes never leaving Oliver's face. A talented man like this shouldn't be limited to local clients. I could make some calls. Oliver looked interested despite himself. What kind of connections? Major corporations, government contracts, international firms. The kind of clients that could set you up for life. I watched as the seeds of temptation were planted. This was how she always started. Not with flirtation, but with opportunity. She made herself indispensable first, seductive second. I should probably get going, she finally said, standing up gracefully. But Oliver, would you mind if I added you on social media? I'd love to share some of those contacts I mentioned. This was it. The moment I'd been preparing for. Oliver looked at me, then back at her, clearly torn between the professional opportunity and the promises he'd made to me. I don't really use social media for business, he said carefully. Oh, but everyone does these days. It's the only way to network effectively. She pulled out her phone. Just add me on one platform. I promise I won't spam you with cat videos. She laughed at her own joke, and I saw Oliver's resolve wavering. The 3-hour conversation had worn him down, and the promise of career advancement was too tempting to ignore. I guess just on LinkedIn would be okay, he said finally. My heart sank. It was such a small concession, but I knew it was the first crack in the wall. She'd gotten her foot in the door. Within a week, my cousin had become Oliver's unofficial business advisor. It started innocently enough. A LinkedIn message about a potential client, a shared article about industry trends. But soon, Oliver was mentioning her in conversations daily. Your cousin thinks I should consider expanding to the West Coast? She sent me this article about government contracting that's really interesting. Did you know she has an MBA from a top-tier school? Of course she did. My cousin collected credentials the way other people collected stamps. Not because she was passionate about them, but because they made her more impressive to her targets. The breaking point came during dinner at my parents' house 2 weeks later. Oliver had been reluctant to go, claiming work stress, but my mother had insisted. She wanted to show him off to the extended family, and my cousin would obviously be there. Oliver, my cousin exclaimed when we walked in, as if she hadn't been texting him daily. I was just telling Uncle Pete about your expansion plans. My father looked impressed. Expansion plans? It's just an idea, Oliver said modestly, but I could see he was pleased by the attention. Oh, it's much more than that, my cousin continued. I've already reached out to 3 potential investors from my network. Oliver, did you get my message about the meeting next week? Meeting? This was the first I'd heard of any meeting. What meeting? I asked. Just a casual introduction, my cousin said smoothly. Nothing formal, but when opportunity knocks. She let the sentence hang in the air while the whole family looked at Oliver with new respect. Here was someone who was making things happen, taking action, building something bigger than himself, and my cousin was the one making it possible. After dinner, I cornered Oliver in the parking lot. Since when are you having business meetings with my cousin? It's not like that, Zoe. She's just trying to help. Help with what? Exactly? You've been doing fine on your own. Fine isn't enough anymore. The market is changing, and if I don't adapt, I'll get left behind. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Look, I know you have issues with your cousin, but this is business. Personal feelings can't interfere with professional opportunities. Personal feelings? She systematically destroyed every relationship I've ever had. Maybe those guys just weren't strong enough to resist temptation, he said coldly. Maybe they were looking for an excuse to leave anyway. The words hit me like a slap. This was exactly what she did. She made them question not just their relationship with me, but me as a person. She made them feel like they were settling, like they deserved better, like I was holding them back. So that's what you think? That I'm holding you back? Oliver's expression softened slightly. No, that's not what I meant. I think you're being paranoid. Your cousin has been nothing but professional with me. Professional. That's how she always started. Pure business, legitimate opportunities, mutual benefit. The seduction came later, so gradually that her targets never saw it coming. Over the next few days, Oliver became increasingly absent. He was either at meetings she'd arranged, on calls with her contacts, or researching markets she'd suggested. When he was home, he was distracted, constantly checking his phone for her messages. She thinks I should consider opening a satellite office in Denver, he told me one evening, not looking up from his laptop. Denver? Since when do you want to live in Denver? It's not about living there. It's about market penetration, establishing a regional presence. He was using language I'd never heard from him before, business jargon that sounded like it came straight from my cousin's mouth. Oliver, do you realize you've talked more about business with my cousin in 2 weeks than you've talked about anything with me? He finally looked up. That's not true. When's the last time we had dinner together? When's the last time we watched a movie or went for a walk or had a conversation about something other than your expansion plans? He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. He couldn't remember either. This is exactly what she does, I said quietly. She finds what matters most to you and makes herself essential to it. It's not about business, Oliver. It's about control. You're being ridiculous, he said, but there was less conviction in his voice than before. That night, I lay awake listening to him type messages on his phone. Even in the dark, I could see the glow of the screen, could hear the soft ping of incoming texts. I didn't need to look to know who he was talking to. My cousin had found her way in. The first real breach came during what was supposed to be a romantic dinner. Oliver had suggested we try the new Italian place downtown, our first real date in weeks. I was hopeful, thinking maybe he was finally pulling back from my cousin's influence. But halfway through our appetizers, his phone buzzed with a message that made his face light up. She did it, he said, grinning at his screen. Who did what? Your cousin. She got me a meeting with Harrison Industries. Do you know what this means? I didn't. But I had a sinking feeling I was about to find out. Harrison Industries is one of the biggest consulting contracts on the East Coast. They've been looking for a strategic planning partner for their expansion into emerging markets. He was talking faster now, animated in a way I hadn't seen in months. Your cousin's ex-husband used to work with their CEO. She reached out personally and vouched for me. She vouched for you? She barely knows your work. She knows enough. We've been going over my portfolio, my case studies, my 5-year projections. He paused, noticing my expression. What's wrong? This is good news, Zoe. This could change everything for me. How often have you been talking to her about your portfolio? I don't know. Every day, I guess. She's been incredibly helpful with strategy and presentation. Every day. While I'd been working late trying to give him space to focus on his business, he'd been spending hours each day sharing his dreams and ambitions with the woman who'd made a sport of destroying my happiness. Oliver, doesn't it strike you as strange that she's suddenly so invested in your success? Maybe she just wants to help family, he said. But he was already looking back at his phone, typing a response. We're not family. She's my cousin, not yours. Well, maybe she wants to help because you're important to me. The words should have been reassuring, but the way he said them, distracted, automatic, made them feel hollow. Over the next week, Oliver threw himself into preparing for the Harrison Industries meeting with an intensity that bordered on obsession. My cousin was his constant companion in this effort, available at all hours to review presentations, suggest revisions, and boost his confidence. She really understands the corporate mindset, he told me one evening as he practiced his pitch. She knows how these people think, what they want to hear. And what do they want to hear? Vision. Innovation. Someone who's not afraid to think big and take risks. I listened to him rehearse the same presentation 3 times, each iteration sounding more like something my cousin would say and less like something Oliver would naturally express. She was reshaping not just his business approach, but his entire professional identity. The night before the meeting, she called to wish him luck. I could hear her voice through the phone from across the room, warm, encouraging, confident. You're going to be amazing tomorrow, she said. Just remember what we talked about regarding the quarterly projections, and don't undersell your international capabilities. International capabilities? Oliver had never worked internationally, but somehow, in the span of 3 weeks, my cousin had convinced him he was ready for global consulting contracts. After he hung up, Oliver seemed nervous for the first time. What if I can't deliver on what I'm promising? Maybe you shouldn't promise things you can't deliver. That's not how business works, Zoe. Sometimes you have to stretch to reach the next level. And if you fall, then I fall. But at least I tried. He was right, of course. Ambition required risk. But I couldn't shake the feeling that my cousin wasn't pushing him toward success. She was pushing him toward dependence. Every opportunity she created, every contact she provided, every piece of advice she offered made him more reliant on her judgment and less confident in his own. The Harrison meeting went well. Too well, perhaps. Oliver came home that evening more excited than I'd ever seen him. "They want to move forward," he said, spinning me around the kitchen. "Not just with one project, but with a whole package deal. Your cousin was right. They're looking for someone who can handle multiple markets simultaneously." "That's wonderful," I said, trying to match his enthusiasm. "There's just one thing," he continued, his smile faltering slightly. "They want to meet with your cousin directly. They're interested in her consulting on the cultural adaptation components." My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means she'd be working with me on this. As a partner, essentially. A partner. She'd managed to insert herself not just into his decision-making process, but into his actual business. She'd become indispensable to his biggest opportunity, ensuring that he couldn't succeed without her. "Oliver, do you see what's happening here?" "What do you mean?" "She's making herself essential to your career. Every success you have will be tied to her. Every decision you make will require her input." "You're being paranoid again." "Am I? Or am I seeing clearly for the first time?" But Oliver was already back on his phone, texting her the good news. And I realized that somewhere in the past month, I'd lost him completely. Not to another woman, but to the promise of a bigger, better version of himself that only she could deliver. The trap was complete. Oliver left for his first business trip with Harrison Industries on a Monday morning in March. What was supposed to be a 3-day trip to assess potential markets in the Southeast turned into a week-long expedition that somehow required my cousin's constant presence. "She knows the regional demographics better than anyone," Oliver explained during our first video call that evening. Harrison specifically requested her input on cultural integration strategies. Behind him, I could see her in what appeared to be a hotel business center, papers spread across a conference table, looking every bit the successful consultant she'd reinvented herself to be. "Hi, Zoe," she called out, waving at the camera with false cheerfulness. "We're just wrapping up our analysis of the Atlanta market. Oliver's ideas are so innovative." Our call lasted 10 minutes. Her voice in the background lasted the entire time. By Wednesday, I'd stopped expecting evening calls. When Oliver did call, it was during lunch breaks or early morning coffee runs, brief conversations squeezed between meetings and strategy sessions. My cousin was always somewhere in the frame. At the next table, in the hotel lobby, walking beside him as he talked. "How's the trip going?" I asked during one particularly short call. "Really well. Your cousin has been incredible. She set up meetings with 3 potential client bases I never would have considered." "That's great." I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice. "When are you coming home?" "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. We're getting such good feedback here that Harrison wants us to extend the trip through the weekend, maybe even into next week." "Us?" "The consulting team. Your cousin and me." The consulting team. They'd become a unit, a professional partnership that apparently worked so seamlessly that Harrison Industries wanted to extend their collaboration indefinitely. "Oliver, you've been gone for 3 days. We had dinner plans this weekend." "I know, and I'm sorry. But this is the opportunity we've been working toward. I can't walk away now." "We." He said we, but he meant him and my cousin. I'd become a third party in my own relationship. The extended trip became 2 weeks. Then 3. Oliver would call sporadically, usually with updates about their successes. New clients secured, contracts signed, expansion plans approved. My cousin had successfully positioned herself not just as his business partner, but as the architect of his professional transformation. "The Harrison people love her," Oliver told me during one of our increasingly rare conversations. "She's so polished, so strategic. She really knows how to present ideas in a way that gets results." "And what about us? What about our relationship?" "What do you mean?" "I mean you've been gone for 3 weeks. Oliver, you call maybe every other day, and when you do, it's to tell me about business meetings and client presentations. When was the last time we talked about anything personal?" There was a long pause. "I'm building something here, Zoe. This is bigger than anything I've ever done before. With her. With Harrison Industries. Your cousin is just... she's a valuable team member. Team member. That's what I'd been reduced to in his mind. Someone who wasn't on the team, who didn't understand the bigger picture, who was somehow holding him back from his full potential. When he finally came home, it was for exactly one day. He needed to pack different clothes, pick up some documents, and prepare for the next phase of the project, which would take him to potential markets on the West Coast. "How long this time?" I asked, watching him fold shirts I'd given him for Christmas into his suitcase. "A month, maybe 2. It depends on how quickly we can establish the regional offices." "We?" "The Harrison Consulting Team." He wouldn't even say her name anymore. She'd become so integrated into his professional identity that referencing her directly felt redundant. That night, as Oliver slept beside me for the first time in weeks, I lay awake thinking about how completely she'd won. She hadn't seduced him with flirtation or sexual appeal. She'd done something far more sophisticated. She'd become essential to his dreams. Every success he achieved would be tied to her. Every ambitious goal would require her expertise. When he left the next morning, kissing me goodbye with the distracted affection of someone whose mind was already elsewhere, I realized I was living with a stranger. The man I'd fallen in love with had been replaced by someone whose entire sense of self-worth depended on my cousin's validation and support. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "How's Oliver's business trip going? Your cousin posted some lovely photos from their client dinner last night. They look like such a professional team." I didn't respond. What was there to say? That she was right? That they did look like a perfect team? That somewhere between helping him achieve his dreams and supporting his ambitions, my cousin had managed to steal another boyfriend without him even realizing he was being stolen? The worst part was that I couldn't even blame Oliver entirely. She'd given him everything he wanted professionally while I'd been focused on our relationship. She'd made him successful while I'd been trying to make him happy. And in the end, success had proven more seductive than happiness. I was losing him one business meeting at a time. The mistake that changed everything happened on a Thursday evening in April. Oliver had been gone for 6 weeks. Our conversations had dwindled to brief text exchanges, and the occasional video call dominated by business updates. I was tired, frustrated, and desperate for any connection to the situation that was slowly destroying my relationship. I meant to call my cousin directly. Instead, I somehow dialed her ex-husband's number. "Hello?" The voice was deeper than I expected, tinged with confusion at receiving a call from someone whose number he didn't recognize. "Oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to reach—" "Wait, you're Zoe, aren't you? My ex-wife's cousin?" There was something in his tone that made me pause. Not warmth. Exactly. But recognition mixed with something that sounded almost like sympathy. "Yes, that's right. I was trying to call her, but I must have mixed up the numbers." "Don't hang up," he said quickly. "Actually, I'm glad you called. I've been wanting to talk to someone from her family." "About what?" "About what she's really up to these days." "With this business consulting thing?" My heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" "Look, I don't know you well, but I know her. And I know she doesn't give a damn about anyone's business success unless there's something in it for her personally." He paused. "She's been posting all these photos on social media, traveling around the country with some guy, talking about their professional partnership. But the captions, they read like she's trying to make someone jealous." "Someone like who? Someone like you?" "I'm guessing." She always did get a kick out of stirring up family drama. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. Her ex-husband told me things I'd suspected but never confirmed. How she'd always needed to be the center of attention. How she'd sabotaged his relationships with friends and family. How she'd used his business connections not to help him succeed, but to control him. "She doesn't want your boyfriend, Zoe. She wants to prove she can take him. There's a difference." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment staring at the phone, processing what I'd learned. My cousin wasn't building a business partnership with Oliver. She was building a dependency. And once he was completely reliant on her professionally, she'd destroy him the same way she'd destroyed every other man who'd gotten too close to something she wanted. I was still sitting there when my door opened and my cousin walked in, clearly intoxicated and angrier than I'd ever seen her. "You called him," she said without preamble. "My ex-husband, he told me. I was trying to call you." "Bullshit." She dropped her purse and faced me with the kind of cold fury that comes with too much wine and too much truth. "You wanted to know what I was really doing with your precious Oliver. And what are you really doing?" She laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "What I always do, cousin. What I've always done better than you. Which is? Taking what you want and making it mine. The mask of professionalism, of family loyalty, of helpful concern dropped completely. You think I give a damn about Harrison Industries? About Oliver's little consulting dreams? I'm doing this because you actually thought you could keep him away from me. He's not a game. Everything's a game. Zoe. And you always lose. She moved closer, swaying slightly, but maintaining that predatory confidence that had terrified me since childhood. You want to know the truth? I could have had him the first day I walked into your apartment. Could have seduced him right there on your couch while you were at work. But that would have been too easy. Too quick. I wanted you to watch it happen slowly. I wanted you to see exactly how little you mean to him when someone better comes along. You're sick. I'm successful. There's a difference. She pulled out her phone and showed me the screen. Photos from their latest business trip. The two of them at client dinners, hotel lobbies, conference rooms. Look at these pictures, Zoe. Really look at them. He's happier with me in 3 months than he ever was with you in 6. The photos were devastating not because they were romantic, but because they showed exactly what she'd said. Oliver looking energized, confident, fulfilled in a way I'd never managed to inspire. He thinks he needs me for business, she continued. But pretty soon he'll realize he just needs me, period. That's when Oliver walked in. He'd come home early, planning to surprise me with a weekend together before his next trip. Instead, he walked into a scene that laid bare everything that had been happening behind his back. My cousin's expression changed instantly, the drunken honesty replaced by calculating damage control. But it was too late. Oliver had heard enough to understand exactly what kind of game he'd been drawn into. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked, her voice suddenly small. "Long enough," Oliver said quietly. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. For the first time in my life, I watched my cousin struggle to regain control of a situation. She tried charm, then explanation, then indignation, but nothing worked. The truth was out, and even her considerable skills couldn't put it back in the box. Oliver looked at me, then at her, then back at me again. "I need to think," he said finally, and walked out of the apartment. My cousin left without another word, and I was alone with the wreckage of everything I'd tried so hard to protect. Oliver didn't come home that night, or the next. When he finally returned on Saturday afternoon, he moved through our apartment like a stranger, packing clothes and documents with mechanical efficiency. He wouldn't look at me directly, wouldn't engage in conversation beyond practical necessities. "Where are you going?" I asked, watching him fold shirts into his suitcase. "Hotel downtown. I need space to think." "Oliver, we should talk about what happened." "What's there to talk about?" His voice was flat, emotionless. "Your cousin played me, and I let her. End of story." "That's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of us figuring this out together." He stopped packing and finally looked at me. His eyes held something I'd never seen before. Not anger, but disappointment so profound it felt like a physical blow. Zoe, she didn't just manipulate me professionally. She made me question everything about our relationship. Every conversation I had with her was designed to make me feel like I was settling for less, like I deserved better, like you were holding me back from my potential. But you know that's not true, do I? He sat heavily on the bed. For 3 months, I felt more excited about my future than I ever had before. More confident, more ambitious, more alive. And it was all built on a lie designed to hurt you. The worst part was that I could see his point. My cousin hadn't just stolen him. She'd given him a version of himself that felt bigger, stronger, more successful than the man who'd been content with our quiet relationship. So what happens now? Now I have to figure out who I actually am when I'm not being manipulated by someone with an agenda. He closed his suitcase. And I can't do that here. Over the next 2 weeks, Oliver became a ghost in my life. He'd text occasionally, brief, polite messages about picking up mail or retrieving belongings. But the man who'd once called me during lunch breaks just to hear my voice had vanished completely. I tried reaching out, suggesting coffee dates or dinner conversations. Each attempt was met with the same response. He needed more time, more space, more distance from the situation that had consumed his life for months. The irony was devastating. My cousin had succeeded in destroying our relationship without even keeping him for herself. Her drunken confession had exposed her game, but the damage was already done. Oliver couldn't separate his feelings for me from his humiliation at being manipulated, and I couldn't compete with the memory of how powerful she'd made him feel. "I think we should meet his parents," I suggested during one of our rare phone calls, grasping for anything that might reconnect us to what we'd had before she'd entered our lives. "That's not a good idea right now." "Why not? We've been together for 8 months. It feels like the natural next step." "Zoe," there was something final in his tone that made my stomach drop. "I don't think there are going to be any next steps." The conversation I'd been dreading finally came on a Tuesday evening in May. Oliver called while I was making dinner for one, going through the motions of normal life while waiting for a resolution that was never going to come. I've been offered a position in Seattle, he said without preamble. Seattle? It's with a firm that specializes in international consulting. Nothing to do with Harrison Industries or anyone associated with that situation. Anyone associated with that situation. He couldn't even say my cousin's name anymore. When? I leave next week. Oliver, you don't have to move across the country to get away from her. I'm not moving to get away from her. I'm moving to get away from the person I became when I was with her. And unfortunately, that includes getting away from you. The words hung in the air between us, final and irreversible. So that's it? 8 months together and you're just going to disappear? What we had was real, Zoe. But it got poisoned by something bigger than both of us. And I don't know how to fix that. Every time I look at you, I'm reminded of how easily I was manipulated, how quickly I abandoned what we had for the promise of something better. That wasn't your fault, wasn't it? She didn't force me to prioritize business over our relationship. She didn't make me ignore your concerns or dismiss your feelings. She just showed me what I wanted, and I chose it over you. There was nothing I could say to that because it was true. My cousin had been the catalyst, but Oliver had made his own choices every step of the way. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen surrounded by the remnants of the life we'd built together. His coffee mug still in the dish drainer, his favorite cereal still in the pantry, his spare phone charger still plugged in beside the bed. My cousin had won again, but this time, the victory was hollow. She'd destroyed what we had, but she hadn't gained anything in return except the satisfaction of proving once more that she could take whatever she wanted from me. I was alone, but for the first time, so was she. 3 weeks after Oliver left for Seattle, I was sitting alone in Morrison's Cafe downtown, staring at an untouched latte and trying to summon the energy to face another day. The cafe had become my refuge, a place where I could disappear into the background noise of other people's conversations and avoid the oppressive silence of my empty apartment. "Excuse me, but you look like you could use this more than I can." I looked up to find a man standing beside my table, holding out a small wrapped chocolate. He was probably in his early 30s, with kind eyes and the sort of genuine smile that made you immediately trust him. "I'm sorry?" "The chocolate. It's from the bakery next door. Supposedly the best thing they make. You just look like you're having the kind of day that calls for emergency chocolate." Despite everything, I found myself almost smiling. That obvious? Huh? I'm something of an expert in recognizing when someone needs a pick-me-up. May I? He gestured to the empty chair across from me. I nodded, grateful for any distraction from my own thoughts. He sat down and extended his hand. "I'm Alex. Zoe." I unwrapped the chocolate, which was indeed exceptional. "Thank you. You're right. It's been a rough few weeks. Want to talk about it?" Sometimes it helps to tell a stranger. There was something genuinely compassionate about him. None of the performative concern I'd grown accustomed to from well-meaning friends and family. Before I knew it, I was telling him everything. About Oliver, about my cousin, about the systematic destruction of yet another relationship I'd actually cared about. Alex listened without judgment, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was really hearing what I was saying. For the first time in months, I felt like someone understood the complexity of what I'd been through. "Your cousin sounds like a piece of work," he said when I finished. "But honestly, it sounds like your boyfriend wasn't strong enough for you anyway." "That's kind of you to say." "I'm not being kind. I'm being honest. Anyone who can be manipulated that easily, who can throw away a good relationship for the promise of professional advancement, you're better off without him." We talked for another hour about everything except my relationship drama. Alex was funny, intelligent, and refreshingly direct. He ran his own marketing consultancy, had traveled extensively, and shared my love of old movies and terrible reality TV shows. For the first time in weeks, I found myself laughing. "Zoe?" The voice behind me made my blood run cold. I turned to find my cousin standing there, but she looked different somehow. Less polished, less confident, almost nervous. "Hi," I said carefully. "I didn't expect to see you here." But my cousin wasn't looking at me. She was staring at Alex with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Something that looked almost like fear. "Hello, Rebecca," Alex said quietly, his entire demeanor changing. The warmth disappeared from his voice, replaced by something cold and distant. I didn't know you were back in town," my cousin said, and I realized she was actually stammering. Rebecca, who had never been caught off guard by anything in her entire life, was completely flustered. "I've been back for a few months," Alex replied. "Not that it matters." The tension between them was so thick I could practically touch it. My cousin, Rebecca, apparently. Looked like she wanted to flee, but also like she couldn't bear to leave without saying something. Alex, I don't. His voice was firm but not angry, just final. We have nothing to discuss. But Rebecca, we have nothing to discuss, he repeated, turning back to me as if she wasn't there. For the first time in my entire life, I watched my cousin retreat. She stood there for another moment, clearly struggling with the unprecedented experience of being dismissed, then turned and walked away without another word. I stared after her, stunned. Well, Alex said, taking a sip of his coffee as if nothing had happened. That was unexpected. You know my cousin? Used to. A long time ago. He looked at me with a mixture of amusement and something else I couldn't identify. I take it she didn't mention me? Should she have? Probably not. Ancient history and all that. But there was something in his eyes that suggested it wasn't quite as ancient as he was pretending. Alex, what just happened here? He was quiet for a moment, studying my face. Let's just say your cousin and I have a history. And unlike your ex-boyfriend, I learned a long time ago that some people aren't worth the trouble they cause. What kind of history? The kind that taught me everything I need to know about women who make a sport of hurting other people. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand gently. But that's a story for another day. Right now, I'm more interested in making sure you're okay. As we left the cafe together, I couldn't stop thinking about the look on my cousin's face. For the first time in my life, I'd seen her completely out of control, completely powerless. And somehow, that felt like the beginning of something new. Alex and I met for coffee again the following week. This time, I was the one who suggested it. I've been thinking about what happened at Morrison's, I said as we settled into a corner booth at a different cafe across town. About you and my cousin. I figured you might be. Will you tell me about it? Alex was quiet for a long moment, stirring sugar into his coffee with deliberate precision. We dated in high school. For about 2 years, actually. Seriously? Dead serious. She was Rebecca Martinez then. Hadn't married into the fancy surname yet. We were both ambitious kids from working-class families, making big plans for the future. I tried to picture my polished, sophisticated cousin as a teenager with big dreams and a working-class background. It didn't compute with the woman who'd spent the last decade living off her ex-husband's alimony. What happened? What always happens with Rebecca. Someone better came along. Alex's voice was matter-of-fact, but I caught the hint of old pain underneath. Senior year, she met this guy whose father owned a construction company. Nothing glamorous, but steady money and good prospects. She decided I was a risk she couldn't afford to take. She left you for her ex-husband? Bingo. Dropped me 2 weeks before prom to go with him instead. Spent the rest of senior year making sure everyone knew she'd upgraded. The cruelty was so typically Rebecca that I almost laughed. Instead, I felt a surge of anger on behalf of the 18-year-old boy who'd been discarded like an outdated accessory. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. At the time? Yes. Now? He shrugged. Best thing that ever happened to me. Taught me early that some people will always choose security over authenticity, status over substance. Saved me from making the same mistake twice. Is that why you were so cold to her at Morrison's? I wasn't cold. I was indifferent. There's a difference. Alex leaned back in his chair. Rebecca only has power over people who want something from her. The moment you stop caring what she thinks or what she can offer, she becomes irrelevant. Over the next few weeks, Alex and I fell into an easy friendship. We'd meet for coffee, go to movies, take long walks through the city. He was everything Oliver hadn't been. Present, attentive, genuinely interested in who I was rather than who I could help him become. What I didn't expect was how much my friendship with Alex would affect my cousin. She started showing up everywhere we went. If we were at Morrison's, she'd arrive 10 minutes later. If we went to the art museum on Saturday, she'd be there on Sunday, posting photos on social media of herself, enjoying the same exhibits. If Alex mentioned liking a particular restaurant, she'd check in there the next day. She's following us, I told Alex after the 4th suspicious encounter in 2 weeks. I noticed. Doesn't it bother you? Not particularly. She's not following us, Zoe. She's following me, and frankly, it's kind of pathetic. He was right. My cousin's behavior had taken on a desperate quality I'd never seen before. Gone was the cool confidence, the calculated manipulation. Instead, she seemed genuinely panicked by Alex's complete lack of interest in her. The situation came to a head during our 6th week of friendship. Alex and I were having dinner at a small Italian place when my cousin appeared at our table, uninvited and visibly determined. Mind if I join you? She asked, already pulling out a chair. Actually, we do mind, Alex said calmly, not looking up from his pasta. I was hoping we could talk. Clear the air. The air is perfectly clear. Alex, please. We have history. That has to count for something. Finally, he looked at her directly. You're right. We do have history. You chose someone else because he had better financial prospects, then spent the next 15 years proving that you made decisions based on what people could do for you, rather than who they actually were. That history is exactly why we have nothing to talk about now. My cousin's face flushed. That's not fair. We were kids. People change. Some people change. You became more of who you always were. I made mistakes. You made choices. And now I'm making mine. Alex turned back to his dinner. Enjoy your evening, Rebecca. She sat there for another moment, clearly struggling with the unfamiliar experience of being dismissed. Then she stood abruptly and left without another word. Wow, I said after she was gone. Sorry about that. I probably should have handled it more diplomatically. Are you kidding? That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I realized I was grinning. No one has ever been immune to her before. No one has ever just not cared. It's not that I don't care, Alex corrected. It's that I learned a long time ago that caring about Rebecca's opinion is a waste of emotional energy. She only respects people she can't manipulate, and she only wants what she can't have. Is that what this is? She wants you because you don't want her? Probably. But that's her problem, not mine. As we walked back to my apartment that evening, I found myself seeing my cousin differently for the first time. Not as an all-powerful force of destruction, but as a person whose entire sense of self-worth depended on other people's validation. Alex's indifference wasn't cruel. It was liberating. It showed me that her power was an illusion that only worked on people who chose to give it to her. Thank you, I said as we reached my building. For what? For showing me that she's not actually invincible. Alex smiled. She never was, Zoe. She just convinced everyone, including you, that she was. For the first time since Oliver had left, I felt something like hope. Something shifted in me after that dinner. Maybe it was seeing my cousin powerless for the first time, or maybe it was Alex's quiet confidence rubbing off on me. Whatever it was, I decided to stop letting other people's drama define my life. I threw myself into work with an intensity I'd never had before. For years, I'd coasted at my job at a mid-sized marketing firm, doing good work but never pushing for more responsibility or recognition. I'd been too focused on my relationships, too worried about other people's opinions, too afraid of standing out in case it made me a target. But watching Alex dismiss my cousin's manipulation so effortlessly had shown me something important. The only power other people had over me was the power I gave them. I want to pitch the Hartwell expansion project, I told my supervisor during our monthly meeting in June. That's a pretty big undertaking for someone at your level, which is exactly why I should be the one to do it. I have fresh perspective and enough experience to execute well. My supervisor looked surprised. In 3 years at the company, I'd never volunteered for high-profile projects or pushed for advancement. I'd been content to do my assigned work and go home. What's changed, Zoe? I have. I spent the next month developing a comprehensive strategy for expanding our services into the nonprofit sector. It required research, market analysis, and the kind of strategic thinking I'd never challenged myself to do before. But for the first time in my career, I was genuinely excited about something I was creating. Alex helped, not by doing the work for me, but by asking the right questions and encouraging me to trust my instincts. You're really good at this, he said one evening as we reviewed my presentation over Chinese takeout in my apartment. I'm surprised by how much I'm enjoying it. Why surprised? I guess I never thought of myself as particularly ambitious. Maybe you just never had the space to be ambitious before. He was right. Between managing my cousin's interference and trying to maintain relationships that were constantly under attack, I'd never had the mental or emotional energy to focus on my own goals. The Hartwell presentation went better than I'd dared to hope. Not only did my supervisor approve the project, but the partners were so impressed that they offered me a promotion to senior account manager with the responsibility of leading the entire nonprofit division. This is incredible, I called Alex immediately after the meeting. They're giving me a team, a budget, everything. Congratulations, but I'm not surprised. You've been working toward this for months. I've been working toward this for years without realizing it. That weekend, Alex and I celebrated at a rooftop bar downtown. As we watched the sunset over the city, I felt more like myself than I had in years. Can I ask you something? I said. How did you know? When we met at Morrison's, how did you know I needed someone to believe in me? Alex was quiet for a moment. Because I recognized the look. It's the same look I had when Rebecca discarded me senior year. Like you were questioning everything about yourself instead of questioning the people who made you feel that way. And how did you get past it? Time, success, and learning to choose people who saw my potential instead of people who saw my vulnerabilities. Over the next few weeks, my cousin's attempts to regain relevance became increasingly desperate. She started calling me directly, something she hadn't done in years, wanting to catch up and hear about my new job. When I didn't return her calls, she showed up at my office. "I heard about your promotion," she said, appearing at my desk one afternoon. "Congratulations." "Thank you." I didn't look up from my computer. "I was hoping we could have lunch. Talk about some opportunities I might be able to connect you with." The old me would have been tempted. The promise of connections, of advancement, of validation from someone whose approval I'd always craved. But the new me recognized the pattern immediately. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm pretty busy with my new responsibilities. I understand you've been spending time with Alex." There it was. The real reason for her visit. "I've been spending time with a friend, yes. Zoe, I know you're probably still upset about the Oliver situation, but I hope you realize that Alex he's not the man he appears to be." I finally looked up at her. "And what kind of man does he appear to be? Successful, stable, someone you can count on, and he's not those things?" My cousin shifted uncomfortably. "He's complicated. Our history is complicated. Your history is that you chose someone else because you thought he had better prospects, and now you can't stand that he's successful without needing you." The words hung between us, and for a moment, I saw something like recognition flash across her face. "That's not what happened, isn't it?" She left without answering, and I realized something profound had shifted. For the first time in our entire relationship, I had been the one in control of the conversation. I had been the one who saw through the manipulation and called it out directly. That evening, Alex and I had dinner at his apartment for the first time. It was a beautiful space, modern but warm, filled with art and books and the kind of thoughtful details that spoke to someone who'd built a life rather than simply acquired one. "This is lovely," I said, looking around. "Thanks. I bought it last year after my company went international." International? We opened offices in London and Toronto. Nothing huge, but growing steadily. I realized how little we'd talked about his work, how much our conversations had focused on everything else. Unlike Oliver, Alex never seemed to need external validation for his success. "I've been so focused on my own career stuff that I never asked much about yours. I prefer it that way. Honestly, success is more meaningful when it doesn't require an audience." As we cooked dinner together, I found myself thinking about how different this felt from any relationship I'd ever had. There was no competition, no insecurity, no need to prove anything to anyone. Just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. "Your cousin came to see me yesterday," Alex said casually as we sat down to eat. "At my office. She wanted to discuss mutual business opportunities." I laughed despite myself. "Let me guess. She has connections that could help your international expansion?" "Something like that." She seemed surprised when I told her I wasn't interested in shortcuts. "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That I'd rather succeed slowly on my own terms than quickly on someone else's." It was such a simple philosophy, but it represented everything my cousin had never understood about building a genuine life versus building an impressive facade. For the first time, I was with someone who valued authenticity over advancement, and it was changing everything about how I saw myself and what I wanted from the future. The confession came on a Thursday evening in August, 3 months after we'd met at Morrison's Cafe. Alex and I were walking through the botanical gardens downtown, something that had become our weekly tradition. The summer air was warm and heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine, and for once we weren't talking about work or my cousin or anything complicated, just enjoying each other's company in comfortable silence. "Zoe," Alex said as we stopped beside the fountain at the center of the garden, "there's something I need to tell you." Something in his tone made me look at him more carefully. He seemed nervous, which was unusual for someone who'd always been so steady and sure of himself. "What is it?" "I'm falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between us, simple and honest and completely without pressure. He wasn't asking me to say it back or demanding immediate reciprocation. He was just telling me the truth. "Alex, you don't have to say anything right now," he continued quickly. "I know you're still processing everything that happened with Oliver, still figuring out who you are when you're not defending yourself against other people's manipulation. I just wanted you to know where I stand." I stared at him, overwhelmed by the directness of it. No games, no strategic timing, no hidden agendas. just a man telling a woman how he felt and giving her space to figure out how she felt in return. Can I ask you something? Why now? Why tell me this now? Alex smiled. Because hiding it was starting to feel dishonest. And dishonesty is what destroyed every other relationship you've had. I figured if we were going to build something real, it should be based on truth from the beginning. Over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking about Alex's words constantly, not because I felt pressured to respond, but because they'd opened up a space in my mind where I could examine my own feelings without fear or urgency. The truth was, I had been falling in love with him too, but it felt so different from what I'd experienced with Oliver or any of my previous relationships. There was no anxiety, no constant worry about whether I was enough or whether someone better would come along. There was just the steady, growing certainty that this person understood me and valued me exactly as I was. My breakthrough came during a particularly successful week at work. The nonprofit division I was leading had just secured our biggest client yet, and I was feeling more confident and accomplished than ever before. As I sat in my office reviewing contracts and planning strategy sessions, I realized that for the first time in my adult life, I felt complete on my own. That was when I knew I was ready to love someone else. Not from a place of need or insecurity, but from a place of wholeness and choice. I called Alex that evening. Can you come over? I have something I want to tell you. He arrived with Chinese takeout, and that gentle smile that had first drawn me to him months ago. So, he said as we settled on my couch with containers of lo mein and sweet and sour chicken. What's on your mind? I love you too. The words came out naturally, without drama or fanfare. Just a simple statement of fact that felt as comfortable as breathing. Alex set down his chopsticks and looked at me with an expression of such genuine happiness that it took my breath away. Yeah. And I wanted to tell you because hiding it was starting to feel dishonest. He laughed and pulled me into his arms. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Our relationship developed slowly and naturally from there. No rush to define things or make grand gestures or prove anything to anyone. We simply enjoyed being together. Whether we were working late at our respective offices, exploring new restaurants, or spending quiet evenings at home reading and talking about our days. The most surprising thing was how little my cousin factored into our happiness. She'd made a few more attempts to insert herself into our lives, showing up at places we frequented, trying to orchestrate accidental encounters. But her behavior had taken on such a desperate quality that it was more sad than threatening. The final encounter came on a Saturday afternoon in September. Alex and I were browsing at the farmer's market when we literally bumped into my cousin near the flower vendors. Oh, Zoe, Alex, what a surprise. But this time she didn't look manipulative or calculating. She just looked tired. Hi, Rebecca, Alex said neutrally. I actually wanted to talk to both of you, she said, surprising me. I owe you an apology, Zoe. Several apologies, actually. I glanced at Alex, who shrugged as if to say this was my call. What kind of apology? The kind where I admit that I've spent most of our lives being jealous of something I couldn't even name, and taking it out on you in the cruelest ways possible. It was the closest thing to self-awareness I'd ever heard from my cousin. What changed? I asked. She looked at Alex, then back at me. Watching someone choose authenticity over opportunity, I guess. Watching you become the person you always could have been if I hadn't spent so much energy trying to prove you weren't good enough. Rebecca. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking for the chance to stop being the villain in your story. Alex and I exchanged another look. There was no manipulation in her voice, no hidden agenda that I could detect. Just someone who'd finally recognized the cost of her own behavior. Okay, I said finally. We can try that. She nodded and walked away without trying to extend the conversation or make it about her needs. For the first time in our entire relationship, she'd said what she needed to say and then given me space to process it. That was unexpected, Alex said as we watched her disappear into the crowd. Good unexpected or bad unexpected? Just unexpected. How do you feel about it? I thought about it as we continued walking through the market, Alex's hand warm and steady in mine. Like maybe she's finally figured out what I learned months ago, that other people's happiness isn't a threat to your own. That evening, as Alex and I cooked dinner together in my kitchen, I realized how much my life had changed since that day at Morrison's Cafe. I had work that excited me, a relationship that fulfilled me, and for the first time ever, a cousin who wasn't actively trying to destroy my happiness. Most importantly, I had myself, confident, capable, and finally free from the need for anyone else's validation to feel complete. We got married on a quiet Saturday morning in October, exactly 1 year after Oliver had left for Seattle. It wasn't a grand affair. Just us, a justice of the peace, and 2 friends as witnesses in the small courthouse downtown. Alex had suggested something bigger, but I'd wanted something that was entirely ours, free from the performance and drama that had characterized so much of my past. "Are you sure you don't want your family there?" Alex had asked when we were planning. "I want the people who've supported us to be there. That's you, me, Sarah from work, and your business partner, Tom. Everyone else can find out later." We'd planned to tell our families after a quiet honeymoon weekend, but my cousin had other ideas. I was signing the marriage certificate when I heard familiar heels clicking across the courthouse lobby. My heart sank as I looked up to see my cousin striding toward us in a dramatic red dress that was entirely inappropriate for a Tuesday morning courthouse wedding. "I can't believe you didn't tell anyone," she announced, loud enough for everyone in the building to hear. "Your own family had to find out from social media posts." I looked at Alex, confused. We hadn't posted anything on social media. "Sarah posted a photo of us signing the papers," Alex explained quietly. "She tagged you." My cousin was in full performance mode now, drawing attention from court clerks and other couples waiting for their ceremonies. "This is so typical of you, Zoe. Always sneaking around, always hiding things from the family." She turned to Alex with exaggerated concern. "I hope you know what you're getting into." She's always been secretive. But something remarkable happened. Instead of the usual audience of impressed onlookers, people just looked annoyed at the disruption. The courthouse staff continued their work. The other couples waiting for ceremonies ignored her completely. Even the justice of the peace seemed more irritated than impressed by her dramatic entrance. "Rebecca," Alex said calmly, "we chose a small ceremony because that's what we wanted. It wasn't personal. Everything is personal when it comes to family." "Then maybe you should have been the kind of family member who gets invited to important occasions," I said, surprising myself with my directness. My cousin's mouth fell open. She was clearly expecting either apologies or arguments, not calm confidence. "I came here to celebrate with you," she said, her voice losing some of its theatrical quality. "Then celebrate," I replied. "But don't make our wedding about your feelings." For a moment, we all stood there in silence. Then my cousin did something completely unexpected. She laughed. Not her usual calculated laugh designed to regain control, but something that sounded almost genuine. "You know what? Fair enough." She stepped forward and, to my amazement, gave me a proper hug. "Congratulations, Zoe. You found a good one." She turned to Alex and extended her hand. "Take care of her, and thank you for showing me what it looks like when someone chooses authenticity over opportunity." With that, she walked away, leaving us to finish our ceremony in peace. "That was," Alex began. "Different," I finished. "She's really trying to change. Are you okay with her being here?" I thought about it as we posed for photos with Sarah and Tom, as we signed the final paperwork, as we walked out of the courthouse as husband and wife. Actually, yes. It feels right that she witnessed this. She was part of the journey that brought us together, even if she didn't mean to be. Our honeymoon was a weekend in a cabin upstate, quiet, simple, and perfect. We hiked during the day and cooked together in the evenings, talking about our plans for the future and marveling at how different this felt from any relationship either of us had ever had. "No drama," Alex said on our last evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset. "No games. No one trying to prove anything to anyone else. Just us. Just us." 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. My cousin was getting married again, this time to a man she'd met in a grief counseling group after her father's death. The wedding was small, tasteful, and apparently based on something real rather than strategic. "Are you going?" Alex asked when I showed him the invitation. "I think so. You? If you want me there." The wedding was lovely. My cousin looked genuinely happy in a way I'd never seen before. Not performatively happy or strategically happy, just content. Her new husband was quiet and kind, the sort of person who clearly valued her for who she was rather than what she could do for him. During the reception, she approached Alex and me at our table. "Thank you for coming," she said simply. "Thank you for inviting us. I wanted to tell you both something." She took a breath. "I've been in therapy since last year, working through some things." "How's that going?" I asked. "Hard, but necessary." She looked at Alex. "My therapist helped me understand that I was never actually competing with you, Zoe. I was competing with my own insecurity. You were just the convenient target. I appreciate you telling me that. I also wanted you to know that I'm genuinely happy for you both. You have something real, and that's rare." As Alex and I drove home that evening, I reflected on how much had changed since that day at Morrison's Cafe, when a kind stranger had offered me chocolate and changed the entire trajectory of my life. Oliver had eventually reached out 6 months after our wedding. He was doing well in Seattle, had met someone new, and wanted to apologize for how things had ended between us. I'd accepted his apology and genuinely wished him well. Some relationships end not because anyone is evil, but because people are human and make mistakes when they're confused or scared. My cousin had found her own version of happiness with someone who appreciated her intelligence and drive without needing her to prove her worth through manipulation and control. My mother had eventually adjusted to the idea that I was capable of making good decisions without her guidance or comparisons to other family members. And Alex and I had built something that neither of us had ever experienced before, a relationship based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and the radical idea that love shouldn't require strategy or defense. Looking back, I realized that my cousin's pattern of destruction had been a twisted gift. Each relationship she'd sabotaged had taught me something important about what I didn't want, about the difference between being chosen and being settled for, about the importance of building a life that didn't depend on anyone else's approval or validation. Most importantly, it had taught me that the only person who could really destroy my happiness was me, by accepting treatment I didn't deserve, by staying in situations that diminished me, by believing that I needed to compete for love instead of simply being worthy of it. My cousin had spent years proving she could take whatever she wanted from me, but in the end, the most valuable thing she'd given me was the knowledge that no one could take anything I didn't give them permission to take, and I'd finally learned to stop giving that permission.
Husband passed away, and his family showed up demanding I give them our house for my Sills kids, and move into her small apartment while paying her rent. But when we met with the lawyer, he revealed something that left them speechless. I, 34F, recently lost my husband, 36M, to a sudden cardiac arrest, and it's been a really tough time for me. We were married for 12 years, and even though it's been 3 months since he passed, the pain still feels so fresh. We had a home together, a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a lovely neighborhood that we worked so hard to buy about 6 years ago. My husband was always super organized, especially when it came to finances. He made sure everything was legally sorted and documented, and I never really gave it much thought back then, but now, looking back, I'm incredibly thankful for how he took care of all that. I know this might seem a little out of context, but believe me, it will come around. My in-laws and I have never been close. They've always been very traditional and, to be honest, never fully accepted me. I chose to focus on my career. I'm a software engineer, which they didn't understand because they expected me to stay at home and have kids. They were polite enough, but there was always this subtle tension between us. My sister-in-law, 38F, was their favorite. She's married with 3 kids, stays at home, and basically fits the mold of what they consider the perfect daughter. Things began to take a strange and unsettling turn not long after my husband's funeral. At first, my in-laws seemed genuinely supportive. They brought food, helped with arrangements, and even offered kind words. For a brief moment, I thought that maybe this was the beginning of a better relationship with them, that maybe, in the face of such a profound loss, we could find some common ground. But that hope didn't last long. Just a week after we laid my husband to rest, they showed up at my door unannounced, and the tone of their visit was nothing like I'd expected. My father-in-law, 65M, started off with a speech about how family needs to stick together in times like these and how they had been thinking about what was best for everyone. At first, I thought maybe they were offering some sort of olive branch or trying to console me in a way that felt genuine. For a brief moment, I even allowed myself to believe they were finally showing a bit of understanding and compassion after all these years of tension. But then, the conversation took a turn that I could never have anticipated. Out of nowhere, they dropped a bombshell. My in-laws told me that I should do the right thing and give up the house to my sister-in-law and her family. They reasoned that since she has 3 young kids ages 8, 6, and 4, they needed the space far more than I did. They pointed out that I was just one person living in a big house and suggested that I move into my sister-in-law's 2-bedroom apartment instead. To top it off, they even had the nerve to suggest that I pay her rent as part of this arrangement. According to them, this was what my husband would have wanted. I was stunned. Their words felt like a slap in the face. How could they be so cold and insensitive? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt completely blindsided and deeply hurt. It had only been days since I lost my husband, the person I had built a life with for 12 years, and already, his family was trying to take away the home we had created together. It was as if my grief didn't matter to them at all. When I refused to entertain the idea, things escalated quickly. They began making outrageous claims, saying that because my husband was their son, they had the right to decide what happened to his property. They accused me of being selfish and disrespecting his memory by not helping my sister-in-law. My mother-in-law even started crying, saying I was tearing the family apart and dishonoring my husband's wishes. I couldn't wrap my head around how they could behave like this. It felt like they didn't care about my grief or the pain I was going through. All that seemed to matter to them was what they could take from me, as if my feelings didn't count. Losing my husband was already the hardest thing I'd ever faced, and now his family was adding to the pain by treating me like an obstacle to their plans. I was devastated, furious, and completely overwhelmed. The way they were acting made it clear that fairness or decency didn't matter to them. They were determined to get what they wanted, no matter how much it hurt me. But it didn't end there. The harassment only got worse. For days, they kept showing up at my house without warning, ringing the doorbell and knocking like they had every right to be there. If I didn't answer, they'd call me repeatedly, sometimes back to back, until I felt like I couldn't escape them. On top of that, they started dragging other family members into it. People I hadn't heard from in years suddenly began reaching out, telling me I needed to think of the children and do the right thing by giving up the house. It felt like they were trying to wear me down from every angle, using guilt and pressure to get their way. The worst part was my sister-in-law's behavior. She started posting these passive-aggressive messages on social media, clearly aimed at me. Things like, "Some people are heartless, and family should take care of family." It was such a blatant attempt to paint me as the villain, and it hurt deeply. Not just because it was unfair, but because I was already struggling to keep myself together after losing my husband. Instead of supporting me, they were trying to tear me down. Every knock at the door, every call, every message chipped away at what little peace I had left. I felt like I was constantly on edge, waiting for the next attack. It was exhausting and emotionally draining. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep living like that. I was already dealing with unimaginable grief, and their behavior was pushing me to my breaking point. That's when I knew I had to take action. I needed to protect myself, not just from their claims on the house but from the relentless stress and manipulation they were putting me through. I decided it was time to get some professional advice, so I reached out to my husband's lawyer. As soon as I explained the situation, he wasted no time setting up a meeting with my in-laws. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I hoped it might finally put an end to their behavior. What I didn't realize was just how prepared my husband had been for something like this. When my in-laws showed up for the meeting, the lawyer didn't hold back. He started by explaining the legal facts about the house. He told them that the house was fully paid off and was jointly owned by my husband and me, with something called the right of survivorship. That meant that when my husband passed away, ownership of the house automatically transferred to me. There was no loophole, no gray area. It was mine, fair and square. Then, he went a step further and brought up my husband's will. Apparently, my husband had updated it just a year before, making it crystal clear that everything was to go to me and that his family was not to contest it. Hearing this left my in-laws visibly stunned. But that wasn't even the end of it. The lawyer then pulled out detailed records my husband had kept over the years. He had documented every time his parents tried to interfere in our financial decisions. There were notes about the times they pressured him to make big purchases, like buying them a vacation home, and even instances where they had tried to meddle in our plans for the future. My husband had been more aware of their behavior than I'd realized, and he had quietly taken steps to protect me from it. The biggest shock came when the lawyer handed them a letter my husband had written and specifically asked to be shared only if his family ever tried to contest the will or harass me after his death. In the letter, my husband poured his heart out. He wrote about how deeply disappointed he would be if his parents ever acted this way toward me. He reminded them of how much he loved me and how important it was to him that I was treated with respect and kindness, especially in his absence. It was as if he had anticipated exactly what they might try to do, and he had made sure they couldn't twist the situation in their favor. The room was silent after the lawyer finished. My in-laws looked completely taken aback, and for the first time, they didn't seem to have anything to say. It was clear that my husband's words had struck a nerve, and I could only hope they'd finally understand how wrong their behavior had been. For me, hearing how much thought my husband had put into protecting me brought a mix of emotions: grief, love, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Even in his absence, he was standing up for me, and that gave me the strength to keep moving forward. What shocked them the most was when the lawyer revealed that my husband had set up a trust for my sister-in-law's kids' education. But here's the catch: the trust would be void if his family ever tried to pressure me about any of his assets after his death. The lawyer made it clear that their behavior was considered harassment, and if they didn't stop, they would risk losing the trust for their grandchildren and could even face legal consequences. That seemed to shut them up for a while, but it was a tough reminder of just how far they were willing to go to try and control everything, even after my husband was gone. Since the meeting with the lawyer, I haven't heard a word from my in-laws. My sister-in-law deleted her social media posts, and now they've all blocked me on every platform. A few extended family members have reached out to apologize, saying they had no idea about the full situation and didn't realize how far their behavior had gone. It's strange to hear that from them, but at least some of them seem to be acknowledging what's really been happening. Right now, I'm feeling so conflicted. On one hand, I'm relieved that my husband took steps to protect me even after his death. I'm grateful that he made sure I wouldn't be pushed around by his family. But at the same time, it breaks my heart that his family turned on me so quickly. It feels like they didn't care about me at all and just saw me as someone to manipulate for their own benefit. I thought they would be more supportive, especially after everything I've been through, but instead, they made this difficult time even harder. I can't help but wonder if I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have tried to talk things out with them before going to the lawyer. But honestly, the pressure and the guilt tripping felt overwhelming, and I don't know if I could have done much more without completely breaking down. Was it too harsh to involve the lawyer? It feels like the right decision now, but it also makes me feel like I've lost even more than just my husband. This whole situation has made the grief even harder to bear. I miss him so much, and dealing with his family's behavior just adds another layer of pain that I wasn't prepared for. Update 1. Hi everybody, it's been a few days since I shared what happened, and I've been honestly overwhelmed by all the support and kindness from so many of you. First off, I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to comment and reach out. Your thoughtful words and advice have really helped me feel less alone during such a tough time. I'm really glad I listened to some of you who suggested taking extra precautions for my safety. It wasn't something I initially thought much about, but now that I've done it, I feel so much better. The first thing I did was change all the locks on the house. It's one of those things that seems small, but it gave me a sense of control and security that I desperately needed. I also installed a doorbell camera, and honestly, I wish I'd done that sooner. It's such a relief being able to see who's at the door without having to open it, and it's especially useful now when I'm feeling a bit on edge. Thankfully, my in-laws haven't shown up again, but just knowing I have these measures in place gives me some peace of mind. It's one less thing to worry about in the middle of all this chaos. Of course, just as I was starting to feel a little more settled, I got a letter from my in-laws' lawyer. I knew it was coming at some point. They're nothing if not persistent, but it still managed to throw me off. In the letter, they claimed they were entitled to the house because, according to them, it was a family purchase. Reading that made my blood boil. It's such a blatant lie. My husband and I worked hard to buy this house together. We saved up for years and made it happen with our own money. There was no family involvement, financial or otherwise. The house was our dream, something we built together, and for them to try and rewrite history like that was infuriating. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer right away, and thankfully, he was quick to reassure me. He said their claims were completely unfounded and had no legal basis whatsoever. He told me not to worry about it and to let him handle everything, which was a huge relief. Still, it's hard not to get upset when they keep coming at me like this. It feels like they're trying to grind me down, hoping I'll eventually give up and give in to their demands. But I've made up my mind I'm not going to let them win. This is my home, and I'm not going to let them bully me into giving it up. On another note, some of you had asked about the trust my husband set up for his nieces and nephews, and after seeing your comments, I decided to dig into it a bit more with my lawyer. What I found out honestly brought tears to my eyes. My husband had set aside $100,000 for each of the kids to use for their education. That's such a huge, thoughtful thing to do, and it really shows how much he cared about his family. Even with all the drama and tension with his parents, he wanted to make sure his nieces and nephews would have the chance to build a better future for themselves. It's just one more reminder of the kind of person he was: generous, forward-thinking, and deeply loving. What's hard to wrap my head around is how his parents could be willing to risk all of that. By trying to take the house from me, they could have jeopardized the entire trust. It's beyond selfish, it's downright reckless. It's hard to believe they'd put their own greed above something as important as their grandchildren's education. It's heartbreaking and infuriating all at once. My husband wanted so much for his family, and it's painful to see how little they value his wishes. But no matter what they do, I'm determined to honor him and protect what he worked so hard to create, both for me and for those kids. I recently found out something else that just added to the frustration. My husband's best friend told me that my in-laws have been spreading rumors about me, saying I blindsided them with legal action. According to them, they were just trying to help and I completely overreacted. It's honestly so upsetting because that's not even close to the truth. They're trying to paint themselves as victims when all I've done is stand up for myself against their ridiculous demands. It feels so unfair, but at this point, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by anything they do. The silver lining in all of this is my husband's best friend. He's been such an amazing support. Not only has he been there for me emotionally, but he's also been calling them out on their lies. He's even shown people screenshots of my sister-in-law's old, deleted social media posts, the ones where she was throwing shade at me and trying to guilt trip me. Thanks to him, people are seeing through their fake narrative. I can't even put into words how much I appreciate him for standing up for me. It's comforting to know that not everyone is buying into their story and that I have people in my corner. Emotionally, though, this whole situation has been draining. Everywhere I look in the house, I see memories of my husband and the life we built together. We poured so much love and effort into this place, like the time we spent weekends doing little renovations, or how we'd carefully choose furniture and decorations that felt like us. This house was our safe space, our sanctuary. Now, those beautiful memories are clouded by everything his family has done, and it's such a hard mix of emotions to process. I want to focus on the love and happiness we shared, but the anger and hurt from their betrayal keep creeping in. Despite all of that, I'm doing my best to move forward. I've decided that I'm not going to let them ruin this house for me. This is my home, and I'm reclaiming it piece by piece. I've started reorganizing some rooms and making little changes here and there to help it feel like my own space again. I bought some fresh flowers for the living room, which has actually brightened the space more than I expected. I also put up new curtains in the kitchen, and they've completely changed the vibe of the room. It's a small thing, but it feels like progress. Each little step feels like a win, no matter how small. It's bittersweet. On one hand, it's hard to make changes to a place that holds so many memories of my husband. But on the other hand, it's helping me find a bit of normalcy and control in the middle of all this chaos. It's like taking my life back one piece at a time. It's not easy, and I still have hard days, but I'm determined not to let his family's actions overshadow the life we built together. I owe it to myself and to him to keep going, even if it's just one small step at a time. Update 2. Things have taken a completely unexpected turn, and honestly, I'm still trying to make sense of it all. A few days ago, my sister-in-law's husband reached out to me privately. To say I was caught off guard would be putting it mildly. He apologized over and over for everything that's happened. He admitted he had no idea what his wife and my in-laws were planning until after they ambushed me. He seemed genuinely horrified by the whole situation. Apparently, they kept him completely in the dark. When he finally found out, he was furious. He said there was a massive argument between him and my sister-in-law over the entire ordeal. He told me he's really worried about how all this might impact their kids, especially the educational trust my husband set up for them. He asked if there was any way to fix things and repair the damage, but I told him I needed some time to think about it. I mean, how do you even start to untangle something this messy? It's not just about forgiveness, it's about protecting myself and honoring what my husband would have wanted. I can't make a rushed decision here, not with so much at stake. At the same time, I've started hearing how all this drama is affecting my husband's extended family. Word has spread, and it's not going well for his parents. 3 of his cousins have actually cut ties with them after finding out how they treated me. I was shocked when I heard that. The cousins reached out to let me know they were appalled by the in-laws' actions and couldn't support what they described as outright greed and cruelty. They also said they're disgusted that my in-laws are risking the kids' trust fund just to try and take the house from me. Of course, not everyone is taking sides. Some relatives are trying to stay neutral, which I guess I can understand. They probably don't want to get caught in the middle. But a few still believe my in-laws' twisted version of the story. It's frustrating, but I can't control what people choose to believe. All I can do is stick to the truth and let the facts speak for themselves. I never wanted any of this to cause a rift in the family. I've already lost so much, and now it feels like the fallout from this situation is just rippling through everyone. But at the same time, it's hard not to feel like my in-laws brought this on themselves. They made their choices repeatedly and now they're dealing with the consequences. It's sad to watch things unravel like this, especially knowing how much my husband cared about family. But at the end of the day, their actions were selfish, and this is the fallout of their own making. Right now, I'm just trying to take it all one step at a time. I don't want to rush into any decisions or do anything that I might regret later. It's complicated, and I need to protect myself while also figuring out what's best for the future. One thing is for sure, though, this whole mess has shown me who I can count on and who truly has my back, and for that, I'm grateful. In the meantime, my lawyer sent a strong response to my in-laws' claims, making it clear that their arguments were completely baseless and warning them that any further harassment would result in legal action. Since that letter was sent, I haven't heard a word from them, and while the silence is a relief, it also serves as a reminder of just how toxic everything has become. I'm hopeful that they've finally gotten the message, but I'm still staying cautious. The locks have been changed, and the doorbell camera gives me some added reassurance. For the first time in weeks, I'm able to breathe a little easier, and it feels like a small victory. I've also started seeing a therapist, and honestly, it's been one of the best decisions I've made during all of this. Talking to someone neutral has really helped me process everything that's happened. My therapist reminded me that it's okay to grieve not just for my husband, but also for the relationship I thought I had with his family. It's hard to admit, but in a way, it feels like I've lost them too, especially with my sister-in-law, who I had a good bond with, even though they've shown they were never really on my side. That loss hurts, but accepting it has been an important part of my healing process. Even so, I can't shake the weight of everything that's happened. My sister-in-law's husband's apology has left me feeling conflicted. On one hand, I appreciate his honesty and that he's willing to confront the situation. It's clear that he's trying to do what's best for his kids, and I can't fault him for that. But on the other hand, it's hard to separate him from the mess his wife and in-laws have caused. Should I consider some kind of compromise for the sake of the children, or would that just open the door to more problems down the road? I don't want to punish the kids for what their parents have done, but at the same time, I need to protect myself and my peace of mind. It's a difficult balance to figure out, and I'm not sure what the right choice is. As for the family rift, I'm torn. Part of me feels guilty that my actions, even though they were justified, have played a role in the growing divide within the family. But another part of me knows that my in-laws are responsible for their own actions. They made the choice to prioritize greed over decency, and now they're facing the consequences. I'm trying my best to focus on the support I've received from the people who truly care about me. My husband's best friend, his supportive cousins, and even strangers who have reached out online have all reminded me that I'm not alone in this. It's comforting to know that there are people who see the situation for what it is and are here for me. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to take things one step at a time. This journey has been overwhelming, and there are still so many unanswered questions. But right now, I'm focusing on finding strength in the small victories, and I'm holding on to the hope that brighter days are ahead. I know it's going to take time to heal and figure everything out, but I'm doing my best to move forward, no matter how slow or difficult it might feel. Update 3. Hi guys, after a lot of reflection, I've finally made a decision about how I want to move forward, and it feels right for me. With the help of you guys and the few people in my life that I trust, I've taken a big step toward healing, but I'm doing it on my own terms. I sent an email to my in-laws and sister-in-law, clearly laying out my boundaries. I told them that I'm willing to maintain a relationship with the kids through their father and that the educational trust my husband set up for them will remain intact, as long as they respect my boundaries and stop trying to claim my home or other assets. My sister-in-law's husband responded positively, which was a relief. He thanked me for my willingness to keep the kids' trust in place and assured me that he would make sure the boundaries were respected. However, my in-laws' response was much colder. They sent back a brief email saying they need time to process everything. Honestly, that's fine by me. I've come to realize that I don't need to rush any decisions or try to force relationships that aren't healthy. My counselor has helped me understand that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's actually necessary for my well-being. My husband's best friend and his wife have been an amazing source of support throughout all of this. They come over for dinner once a week, and it's so comforting to be able to share stories and memories of my husband with people who loved him just as much as I did. Their presence has meant the world to me, especially during those moments when I've felt like I'm carrying everything on my own. They've also been really proactive about offering their help in case my in-laws try anything again, though I'm hopeful that won't happen. Their friendship has been a lifeline, reminding me that I'm not alone in this. From a legal standpoint, I've taken some extra steps to protect myself. My lawyer helped me update my own will and make sure all my important documents were in order. It's not something I ever expected to deal with at this point in my life, but it's given me peace of mind. I've also made sure to document everything that's happened, just in case I ever need it in the future. For now, things have been quiet. My in-laws haven't tried to contact me again, and I'm hopeful that they've finally realized they have no case. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has supported me during this whole ordeal. Your encouragement, advice, and kindness have meant more to me than I can truly express. This journey has been incredibly difficult, and at times, it has felt like an uphill battle. But knowing that there are people who genuinely care about me has given me strength when I need it the most. Sometimes, family isn't just about blood, it's about the people who stand by you when everything falls apart. I'm so grateful for the people who've been there for me through all of this.
Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I had built my fortune one calculated risk at a time. At 38, I commanded respect in Manhattan's most exclusive financial circles, my corner office overlooking Central Park a testament to 15 years of relentless dedication. What I valued most wasn't the penthouse or the Aston Martin, but the trust I'd earned from clients who entrusted me with their life savings. Trust, I believed, was the foundation of everything worthwhile. That belief shattered on a crisp December evening when I heard Victoria Sterling's voice echoing from the marble bathroom of the Metropolitan Club. "He's only useful for his money. I'll toss him when I'm done," she laughed, her voice carrying that musical quality that had first enchanted me 6 months ago. "These finance guys are so predictable. Wave some designer dresses and exotic trips at them, and they think you're in love." I had returned early from a business trip to Chicago, hoping to surprise Victoria at our anniversary dinner. The Tiffany ring box in my jacket pocket felt heavier with each step toward the Metropolitan Club's dining room. Instead, I found myself frozen outside the ladies' lounge, listening to the woman I'd been considering proposing to dissect our relationship like a corporate merger. "I actually believes I care about his boring family stories," Victoria continued, her companions giggling. "Last week he showed me pictures of his parents' restaurant in Chinatown, getting all emotional about their sacrifice and hard work. I had to pretend it was touching instead of pathetic." A chorus of cruel laughter erupted from the bathroom. "But seriously, girls," came another voice I recognized as Shanice Porter, Victoria's closest confidant. "Aren't you worried he'll catch on? Rich guys don't usually stay stupid forever." Victoria's laugh was sharp as breaking glass. "Please. He thinks with his wallet, not his brain. I've studied him for months. Mention his dead grandfather's immigrant dreams, touch his arm when he talks about building something meaningful, and he practically throws money at me. These self-made types are desperate to prove their success to someone from good breeding." "And Trevor's okay with this timeline?" asked another voice. "Trevor's more than okay," Victoria purred. "He's been coaching me through every conversation. We've got copies of his account numbers, his investment patterns, even his passwords. Once I clean out the joint accounts and max the credit cards, I'll file a harassment claim, play the victim, and disappear. Trevor and I will be in Monaco while he figures out his credit score." The words hit me like a margin call in a crashing market. Every romantic gesture, every vulnerable moment I'd shared about my immigrant parents' struggles, every time she'd whispered, "I love you," had been performance art. Victoria Sterling, with her patrician beauty and old money sophistication, had been playing a long con. But I hadn't survived the cutthroat world of investment banking by making emotional decisions. As Victoria's laughter faded, something cold and calculating settled in my chest. She wanted to play financial games with a master? She was about to learn that in my world, the house always wins. I slipped away undetected, the engagement ring now feeling like a loaded weapon in my pocket. I canceled our dinner reservation with practiced calm, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. "Mr. Chun, is everything all right?" asked the maitre d', concerned by the sudden change. "Change of plans," I replied smoothly. Something urgent came up. In my Tesla, hands steady on the steering wheel despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins, I began processing the betrayal like any other business crisis. Victoria had identified me as a mark, studied my weaknesses, and executed a strategy to maximize her return on investment. She'd even mocked my family's sacrifice, the very foundation of everything I'd built. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Can't wait for tonight, baby. I have such exciting news to share." I stared at the message, remembering the Tiffany box in my pocket. She probably expected a proposal tonight. Instead, she was about to learn what happened when someone tried to short sell me. I typed back, looking forward to it. "You're going to be surprised." The elegance of her approach was almost admirable. What she hadn't calculated was that I specialized in hostile takeovers, and I'd never lost one yet. The next morning, I greeted Victoria with coffee and croissants from her favorite bakery, my smile warm as ever. She kissed my cheek, her eyes sparkling with what I now recognized as calculated affection. "How was Chicago?" she asked, settling into the silk robe I'd bought her. Another detail that now stung with new meaning. "Productive," I replied, studying her face like a balance sheet. "The Hartwell merger is moving forward. Should net us about $12 million in fees." Victoria's pupils dilated slightly, a tell I'd never noticed before. She was calculating her percentage. "That's wonderful, darling," she said, her fingers trailing across my shoulder. "You work so hard for us." Us. The word felt like acid on my ears. "Actually, I've been thinking about our future together," I continued, watching her body language shift into what I now recognized as predator mode. Victoria's pulse quickened imperceptibly at her throat, another tell I'd missed for months. This was the moment she'd been maneuvering toward, the financial commitment that would give her access to everything. I want to open a joint investment account, I continued. Something substantial. If we're building a life together, we should have complete financial transparency. Victoria's smile could have powered the trading floor. That sounds wonderful, darling. I've always believed couples should share everything. She paused, then added with practiced vulnerability. I know I don't contribute as much financially, but don't say that. I interrupted, playing my role perfectly. Your social connections, your understanding of culture and refinement, that's invaluable. Money isn't everything. Behind my own smile, I was already 3 moves ahead. The joint account would be her honeypot, filled with money that appeared real but was tied to leveraged positions I controlled. Every dollar she touched would be documented, every transaction recorded. She wanted to empty my wallet? I'd give her a wallet that would empty itself. Over the following weeks, I played my role to perfection. I increased my romantic gestures, sent flowers to her office, and began introducing her to my most influential contacts. Victoria thought she was winning. In reality, she was being positioned for checkmate. The first piece of my strategy involved my mentor, James Wellington. At 72, James commanded more respect in financial circles than the Federal Reserve Chairman. His wife, Charlotte, was the undisputed queen of Manhattan Charity Society. James, I said over lunch at the Union Club, I'd like you to meet someone special. James raised an eyebrow. In the 15 years he'd known me, I'd never introduced him to a romantic interest. She's extraordinary, I continued. Sophisticated, elegant, deeply committed to philanthropy. What I didn't mention was that Victoria Sterling was deeply committed to spending other people's money on philanthropy that began and ended with herself. The introduction took place at a charity luncheon supporting financial literacy programs for immigrant communities, a cause close to my heart given my own family's journey. Victoria arrived in a borrowed Chanel suit, her research on Charlotte Wellington's preferences evident in every carefully chosen word. Mrs. Wellington, Victoria gushed, extending a manicured hand. Your work with the Children's Foundation is absolutely inspiring. I've been following your initiatives for months, especially the scholarship program for underprivileged youth. I've been looking for meaningful ways to contribute to our community. Charlotte, a woman who'd spent 40 years navigating Manhattan's charity waters, found herself impressed despite her usual skepticism. Victoria had done her homework. She referenced specific programs, mentioned recent fundraising goals, and spoke knowledgeably about the foundation's history. How refreshing, Charlotte said, warming to the conversation. So many young women today want the social benefits of charity work without understanding the actual mission. Oh, I completely agree, Victoria replied earnestly. My mother always taught me that privilege comes with responsibility. I've been fortunate in my circumstances, and I want to give back meaningfully. I watched the performance with professional admiration. Victoria had studied Charlotte like a hedge fund analyzes market trends, identifying her values, her pet peeves, and her pressure points. She mentioned her mother's teaching, despite the fact that her mother had abandoned the family when Victoria was 12. "You've found a remarkable woman," Charlotte said, turning to me with approval. "She understands that wealth without purpose is meaningless." Victoria has opened my eyes to many things, I replied truthfully, though not in the way Charlotte interpreted. By the end of lunch, Victoria had secured invitations to 3 exclusive charity boards and promised a substantial donation to the literacy program, $50,000, a sum that made my jaw tighten slightly. $50,000, I said quietly as we walked to my car. That's generous. It's an investment in our reputation, Victoria replied smoothly. Charlotte Wellington's approval opens doors money can't buy. What Victoria didn't realize was that I had orchestrated every moment of this interaction. I'd spent weeks studying Charlotte's preferences, the foundation's needs, and the social dynamics of the charity circuit. I'd casually mentioned Charlotte's favorite authors, her concerns about authentic commitment, and her pet peeves about social climbers. Victoria thought she was naturally brilliant at manipulation. She was actually following a script I had written. The joint investment account, meanwhile, began showing impressive returns. I had filled it with $200,000 in what appeared to be solid blue-chip stocks and emerging market funds. Victoria watched the balance grow with increasing excitement, occasionally suggesting smart moves that I would consider with apparent admiration. "You have such good instincts," I told her one evening as we reviewed our portfolio. "I should listen to your advice more often." Victoria preened, unaware that every successful trade was part of an elaborate shell game. The account existed in a complex web of leveraged positions and options contracts that I could collapse with a single phone call. During this time, I was also conducting a parallel investigation. I'd hired David Kim, my business partner and closest friend since our Harvard Business School days, to research Victoria's background through discreet channels. "I don't like this," David said during one of our morning runs through Central Park. "You're playing with fire. Why not just confront her and walk away?" "Because she's not working alone," I replied, my breathing steady despite our pace. "This is bigger than just Victoria. There's a whole network of people like her, targeting men like us. I want to understand the entire operation before I dismantle it." David shook his head but continued digging. What we discovered painted a picture of desperation masked by designer labels. Victoria Sterling's trust fund had evaporated in the 2008 financial crisis. Her father, Harrison Sterling, had run a prestigious hedge fund that invested heavily in mortgage-backed securities. When the housing market collapsed, so did the Sterling fortune. Harrison had suffered a heart attack 6 months later, leaving Victoria with nothing but debt and a reputation she couldn't afford to maintain. "She's been living on borrowed time and borrowed money for 7 years, David reported. Credit cards, short-term loans, and wealthy men. There's a pattern here. She targets self-made millionaires, plays the sophisticated old money angle, then disappears with whatever she can grab." "What about this Trevor character?" I asked. David pulled up a photograph on his tablet. Trevor Martinez, 35, originally from Phoenix. Small-time con artist with gambling debts stretching back a decade. Here's the interesting part. He's been coaching at least 6 other women in similar schemes across different cities. I studied Trevor's face, handsome in a generic way, with the kind of smile that looked practiced rather than genuine. He's running a stable of romance scammers. Exactly. And Victoria isn't his star performer. According to my sources, she's actually struggling compared to his other girls. The pressure's building for her to deliver a big score, which explains the timeline acceleration. This revelation added another layer to my strategy. I wouldn't just destroy Victoria. I'd eliminate the entire network that had created her. "There's something else," David added grimly. 2 of Trevor's previous marks committed suicide after being financially ruined. One in Chicago, one in Miami. This isn't just about money. These people destroy lives. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Victoria wasn't just trying to steal my money. She was part of a system that had already killed at least 2 men. The moral justification for my revenge solidified into something harder than diamond. The psychological pressure began subtly. I started mentioning market volatility, expressing concern about our portfolio's concentration in certain sectors. I'd leave financial newspapers open to stories about investment fraud, Ponzi schemes, and the dangers of get-rich-quick strategies. "The market's been unpredictable lately," I'd say, studying our joint account statements with apparent worry. "I hope we haven't been too aggressive with our positions." Victoria, who understood nothing about actual investing, began experiencing anxiety she couldn't name. The money she'd counted on seemed less certain, the timeline for her escape plan more urgent. I also began introducing artificial pressure through social channels. At dinner parties, I'd mention my consideration of a career change, perhaps leaving investment banking for something more philanthropic. "Money isn't everything," I'd say thoughtfully, watching Victoria's face. "I've been thinking about what really matters." These comments sent Victoria into quiet panic. A version of me who didn't prioritize wealth was useless to her plans. She began pushing harder for access to my personal accounts, suggesting joint credit cards and shared financial planning. I accommodated each request while secretly moving my real assets into protected trusts and overseas accounts. Every dollar Victoria gained access to was monitored, every transaction recorded. She thought she was gaining control. In reality, she was documenting her own crimes. The charity obligations Victoria had assumed were also tightening like a noose. Charlotte Wellington expected significant donations from board members, particularly new ones seeking to establish their philanthropic credentials. Victoria had promised $50,000 to the literacy program, money she'd assumed would come from my accounts. When the first pledge payment came due, Victoria discovered that our joint account had suffered mysterious market losses. The blue-chip stocks I had claimed were safe havens had mysteriously declined, and the emerging market funds were tied up in complex instruments she couldn't access. "Honey," Victoria said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic as she stared at our laptop screen. The account balance dropped by $30,000 overnight. What happened? I looked up from my morning newspaper with practiced concern. Really? That's odd. Let me check with our broker. I made a show of calling my trading desk, speaking in financial jargon that sounded authoritative but meant nothing. "Yes, I see the margin calls. The volatility index. Understood." Hanging up, I turned to Victoria with a troubled expression. "Market correction. The Fed's comments about interest rates spooked investors. These things happen in volatile sectors. But can we recover the money?" Victoria pressed, her facade of sophisticated calm beginning to crack. I shrugged with apparent resignation. "The market's cyclical. We'll recover eventually, but it could take months, maybe years." Victoria felt the walls closing in. Trevor was pressuring her for the money she'd promised him, their startup capital for their life in Monaco. The charity board was expecting her donation by month's end. Her credit cards were maxed out, her apartment lease was up for renewal, and now the golden goose was laying rotten eggs. For the first time since beginning her scheme, Victoria felt genuinely afraid. She'd been so confident in her ability to manipulate me, so certain that my wealth would solve all her problems. Now she was discovering that wealth could disappear as quickly as it appeared, and she had no backup plan. "Don't worry, darling," I said, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "Money isn't everything. We have each other." The words that should have been comforting felt like a death sentence. Victoria needed money, not love. She needed security, not sentiment. And I seemed increasingly focused on emotional connection rather than financial growth. I watched her stress levels rise with clinical detachment. At dinner parties, I began appearing without her, claiming she was busy with her charity work. This had the dual effect of making her seem unreliable to our social circle while positioning me as the stable, committed partner. Elena Vasquez, my sharp-tongued sister and a successful prosecutor, had been suspicious of Victoria from their first meeting. Unlike me, Elena had grown up poor and recognized the difference between inherited confidence and acquired desperation. "She's playing a role," Elena had warned me months earlier. "Her mannerisms are practiced, not natural." Now Elena became an unwitting ally in my revenge. At charity events, she'd casually mention Victoria's expensive tastes to other board members or wonder aloud about the source of Victoria's apparent wealth given her family's financial troubles. "It's just odd," Elena would say thoughtfully. "Victoria seems to have unlimited funds for designers, but I heard her father's fund collapsed years ago." These seeds of doubt grew quickly in the hothouse environment of Manhattan Charity Society. Women who'd initially welcomed Victoria began scrutinizing her more carefully, noting inconsistencies in her stories and the rotation of luxury items that suggested borrowing rather than ownership. The pressure reached a breaking point when Victoria's apartment lease came up for renewal. She'd been living in a luxury building on the Upper East Side, but her landlord demanded proof of income for the new lease. Victoria had no legitimate income and no savings. Her only assets were the credit cards I had added her to and the promise of future access to my wealth. Desperate, Victoria made her first serious mistake. She attempted to access my personal bank accounts using information she'd gathered during our relationship. What she discovered sent her into full panic. The accounts were either empty or closed. When she confronted me, her usual composure cracked like ice under pressure. "Darling," she said, her voice tight with barely controlled fear, her hands trembling slightly as she set down her wine glass. "I've been having some financial difficulties. Family issues. Legal complications from my father's estate. Could you help me with a short-term loan?" I studied her face with the same intensity one brought to analyzing quarterly reports, noting the dilated pupils, the rapid breathing, the way her fingers drummed against the table. This was the moment Victoria's mask finally slipped, revealing the desperation beneath. "Of course," I said gently, my voice warm with fabricated concern. "How much do you need?" "Maybe $50,000. Victoria tried to make it sound casual, but her voice cracked slightly on the number. Just until some family assets clear probate. There are complications with my father's holdings in the Cayman Islands. I nodded thoughtfully, as if considering the request seriously. That's a significant amount, Victoria. But if you need it, I'd be happy to help. But if we're going to share finances to this extent, I need complete honesty about your situation. No secrets between us. What followed was a masterclass in interrogation disguised as concern. I drew out every lie Victoria had told, every debt she'd hidden, every aspect of her financial desperation. Like a skilled prosecutor, I asked questions that seemed supportive but forced her deeper into confession. So these legal issues with your father's estate, I said sympathetically, how long have they been ongoing? About 7 years, Victoria admitted, not realizing she'd just confessed that her family wealth had been gone since the financial crisis. And you've been managing your expenses how during this time? Credit mostly. Some help from friends. It's been challenging. She confessed to owing money to various creditors, to borrowing designer goods to maintain appearances, to the crushing pressure of her charity commitments. She painted herself as a victim of circumstances, a woman of good breeding caught in temporary financial distress. What she didn't confess was Trevor's role in her scheme, or her original plan to drain my accounts and disappear. But I already knew about both. Don't worry, I said, taking her hands. We'll figure this out together. I'll transfer money to cover your immediate needs. Victoria nearly wept with relief. But the money I transferred was from our joint account, the same account that existed in a web of leveraged positions I could manipulate at will. The final act began with an invitation to dinner at the Union Club, ostensibly to celebrate Victoria's charity work and introduce her to more of my professional circle. The guest list was carefully curated: James and Charlotte Wellington, Elena, David, and several prominent members of Manhattan's financial and social elite. Victoria spent days preparing, viewing this as her debut into the inner circle she'd been targeting all along. She borrowed a stunning Valentino gown, had her hair styled by Charlotte's personal esthetician, and practiced conversations about art, philanthropy, and social causes. What she didn't know was that I had spent weeks preparing as well, but for a very different kind of performance. The evening began elegantly, with 30 guests mingling in the Union Club's most prestigious private dining room. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over mahogany panels and oil portraits of distinguished members. Victoria charmed the guests with stories about her charity work, her commitment to financial literacy, and her gratitude for my support of her philanthropic interests. The literacy program is so close to my heart, she told a group of potential donors, her voice rich with manufactured emotion. When I see immigrant families struggling with financial systems they don't understand, I think of all the opportunities we take for granted. Charlotte Wellington nodded approvingly. Victoria has been such an asset to our board. Her insight into the younger demographic has been invaluable. I watched Victoria's performance with admiration for its technical skill. She had studied these people with the precision of a market analyst, learned their interests and values, and crafted a persona designed to appeal to each of them. She referenced specific scholarship recipients, quoted foundation mission statements verbatim, and spoke passionately about causes she'd researched but never truly cared about. If she'd applied this talent to legitimate endeavors, she might have been genuinely successful. Instead, she'd chosen to weaponize empathy and exploit trust. As the main course was served, perfectly prepared Dover sole that cost more than most people's weekly salary, conversation flowed over topics ranging from art acquisitions to political donations. Victoria navigated each discussion with practiced ease, offering opinions that were informed enough to impress, but not so strong as to offend. "You've outdone yourself with this evening," said James Wellington, raising his wine glass. "And Victoria, your work with the literacy program has been remarkable. Charlotte hasn't stopped talking about your innovative fundraising ideas." Victoria beamed, unaware that her innovative ideas had been suggestions I had planted during our pillow talk weeks earlier. As dessert was served, a delicate chocolate souffle that seemed to symbolize the fragility of Victoria's constructed world, I stood to offer a toast. To honesty in relationships. I began, my voice warm but carrying an undertone that made several guests straighten. In my profession, I've learned that the most dangerous investments are the ones where you don't truly understand what you're buying. Victoria smiled, assuming this was another testament to our love. I've also learned, I continued, that the most devastating market corrections happen when artificial value meets reality. I reached into my jacket and withdrew a small recording device. Victoria, darling, I thought our friends might be interested in your thoughts on honesty in relationships. Victoria's smile froze as her own voice filled the room. He's only useful for his money. I'll toss him when I'm done. These finance guys are so predictable. Wave some designer dresses and exotic trips at them, and they think you're in love. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Charlotte Wellington's face went white with shock and disgust. James leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting from confusion to cold anger. Elena crossed her arms with grim satisfaction. But I wasn't finished. This recording was made 6 weeks ago at the Metropolitan Club, I said calmly. But perhaps our guests would also be interested in Victoria's financial situation. I produced a folder of documents, credit reports showing massive debt, evidence of her father's bankruptcy, records of previous relationships with wealthy men that had ended with mysterious financial transfers. Victoria has been promising charitable donations she can't afford, I continued, using resources that don't belong to her, while planning to disappear with money she intended to steal from our joint accounts. Victoria tried to speak, but only managed a strangled whisper. Please. The joint account Victoria has been accessing, I said, contains no real money. Every dollar she's spent has been documented as evidence of financial fraud. The charity pledges she's made in this room are legally binding commitments she cannot fulfill. Charlotte Wellington stood abruptly. Mrs. Sterling, she said, her voice arctic, you are hereby removed from every board and committee with which you're associated. The literacy program will expect immediate restitution for the funds you've pledged. James Wellington was already reaching for his phone. I'm calling our legal department. This appears to be a case for both criminal and civil prosecution. Victoria's world collapsed in real time. The social status she'd worked so hard to achieve evaporated in minutes. The financial security she'd thought she'd secured revealed itself as an elaborate trap. The man she'd thought she was manipulating had been orchestrating her destruction from the moment he'd learned of her betrayal. But I had one final revelation. There's someone else you should all be aware of, I said, producing photographs of Trevor Martinez. This man has been coaching Victoria's activities as part of a larger scheme targeting wealthy individuals. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is already investigating him for similar frauds in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami. Victoria's face went chalk white. Trevor had told her she was his only partner, his special collaborator. Learning she was just another mark in his larger operation was somehow more devastating than her own exposure. As the dinner guests filed out in stunned silence, Victoria sat alone at the table, surrounded by the evidence of her deception. Her designer dress, borrowed for the occasion, seemed to mock her failure. The charity commitments she'd made to impress these people now loomed as legally enforceable debts she could never pay. I approached her chair, my voice quiet but implacable. Victoria, you wanted to teach me about loss. Consider this your masterclass. The only difference is, I'm the professor and you're the student who never learned the first rule of finance. Never gamble with money you can't afford to lose. In your case, that was my trust. I placed a final document on the table, a comprehensive agreement outlining her options. She could make full restitution for her fraudulent activities and submit to a detailed financial audit, or face criminal prosecution for identity theft, fraud, and attempted embezzlement. Elena will explain the legal implications, I said, straightening my tie. I recommend you choose carefully. Market corrections can be painful, but they're also necessary. With that, I walked away, leaving Victoria alone with the wreckage of her schemes. 6 months later, Victoria Sterling was working as a hostess at a chain restaurant in Queens, her designer wardrobe replaced by a uniform polo shirt. The criminal charges had been avoided through full cooperation with federal investigators and complete restitution of her debts, but her social rehabilitation was impossible. Trevor Martinez was serving 3 years in federal prison, his network of coached accomplices dismantled by the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. I had donated the money recovered from Victoria's schemes to the very literacy program she'd pledged to support, creating an endowment that would help immigrant families avoid financial predators like herself. The charity board named it the Financial Integrity Fund, though they never mentioned its origins. On quiet evenings, I sometimes think about Victoria's talent for reading people, for crafting exactly the persona others wanted to see. In a different world, with different choices, that skill might have made her genuinely successful. But she'd chosen to weaponize trust instead of earning it, to exploit vulnerability instead of nurturing it. Trust, I had learned, was indeed the foundation of everything worthwhile. But like any foundation, it could support tremendous weight when properly built, or create catastrophic collapse when undermined. Victoria Sterling had taught me that lesson the hard way. I had simply ensured she learned it too. In the world of high finance, the most successful investors understand that patience and careful analysis always triumph over greed and quick schemes. Victoria had wanted to play in my market without understanding its rules. She'd learned them now, at a cost she'd never recover.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.